Always helps to have audio. Good evening, this is VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, with the regular Friday night broadcast, coming to you from the studios of VK3 Charlie Sierra Juliet in Narrewarren South, about 40 kilometres southeast of Melbourne. Good evening everybody, tuning in for the first time, and the usual list of folks that like to listen to my carrying-ons for the next hour or so. We are broadcasting on prime frequency of we are broadcasting on the prime frequency of 3541 kilohertz in the 80 metre amateur radio band, and simulcasting on 160 metres 1865 kilohertz in the 160 metre amateur radio band, as already mentioned. This is VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel ASV Radio, broadcasting on behalf of the Astronomical Society of Victoria. We are also streaming via the internet, via the YouTube channel, which you can find if you go to the YouTube channel and look into the search engine there and type in VK3CSJ. You will find the stream that'll be currently live. And I believe there might be a Discord channel running too. Is there, Richard? You might like to just say so if there is. Okay, cool. And let me just confirm if there's a BATC feed. I can just quickly check that if my mouse works for me. Refresh the page, and we'll just confirm if there's a BATC feed, which looks like there is. So there is. So you can view the visions on the British Amateur Television Club website's video server, and once you've clicked on streams, then look for active repeaters. VK3 RTV1 is the repeater to look for. So there is a stream running, which is great to see. And I'll just click on my YouTube stream to see if I'm actually streaming, which it should be. Come on, pick it up. And start it. Yep, they're right. Alright, so good. Alright, we have an email address, VK3EKH excuse me, VK3EKH@gmail.com, VK3EKH@gmail.com, which we are viewing the inbox as we speak, and I can see that Don VK3HDX has been the first off the cab, I think the word is actually, expression, with an email, so thanks Don. And giving a very quick signal reports there for 80 and 40 metres, 80 and 160. All right, we also have a Discord running, so if you wish to join our Discord chat window, you can locate that or find the Discord channel via the ASV website at www.asv.org.au under the Radio Astronomy tab, and look for the link to the Friday night broadcast, and you will see the there'll be a little icon with a radio dish on it, and that's the link towards the Discord site, which is a chat window. You can sign in anonymously or use your name or whatever, and we'll say hi to you. So as I speak, there's already about 500 stations that have come up on the chat window. Not really, about 5 actually. No, but there is already Kim, VK5 FUSC, has joined in. Pardon me. Martin, VK7JAH, has joined in. Richard, VK3VRS, and going up, and Cassiopeia, Nebs. G'day Nebs. So all welcome to the chat window there. You're all welcome to chat amongst yourselves while I carry on like a pork chop. So we are broadcasting as far and wide, and let's hope tonight will be of some entertaining value. Because it is the beginning of the month, June, welcome to the month of June, this 3rd of June 2022. It's all very good the way this year is progressing, isn't it? I guess. Okay. Struth. All right. Well, I'm hoping my audio levels are all okay on the HF side of things. We have a few articles tonight, and we also have a fairly update video from our space weather woman, Timothy Scove, about 8 minutes worth. So I'm going to try and make sure I can squeeze that in somewhere in the last part of this hour. There's also some very interesting video footage, close-ups of the sun, which I'll screen just before I'll run with the video from Tamitha. This is the best footage I've ever seen, actually, and probably best to see it in HD. The video through the repeater will be a bit blurry-ish, but via the YouTube channel is probably the best to see it, because this is some of the best close-up shots I've seen of the surface of the sun ever. Videos from a space probe that flew past the sun, a solar orbiter. So we've got that article coming up as well. Anyway, let's just give a quick rundown of the ASV as I usually do, and then we'll segue into the sky notes for the month. So the Astronomical Society of Victoria was founded in 1922. It comprises well over 1,600 members throughout Victoria and other states of Australia and overseas. Membership of the Society is open to all persons with an interest in astronomy. The Society's objectives are to encourage the study and practice of astronomy, to disseminate the knowledge of the science, and to provide greater facilities for the study among its members. Monthly meetings are usually held on the second Wednesday of each month, except in January, where the latter being held on a Saturday night. Meetings start at 8 p.m. at the Mullier Hall National Herbarium in Burwood Avenue, Melbourne, near the Melbourne Observatory, which is located adjacent the Shrine of Remembrance. Parking is available in Burwood Avenue, Dallas Brooks Drive and surrounding streets. Admission is free and visitors are most welcome. Privileges of membership include the right to borrow books, periodicals and other publications from the library's extensive library located the Society's extensive library located at Melbourne Observatory, receipt of the ASV's magazine Crux containing articles, news, observing notes and the like, and the free provision of the Astronomical Yearbook. Access is available to telescopes on members' nights held regularly at the Melbourne Observatory and after the monthly meetings, weather permitting. These instruments include the Society's 300mm equatorial reflector and a 300mm portable reflector. There's also a 200mm refractor which is managed by the Royal Botanic Gardens, and a photoheliograph are also housed at the observatory and are accessible to members too. The Society also has a number of 200mm refractors available for short period loan to members, or so members can try before you buy. Regular Society Club Night meetings are held on the first and last Fridays of each month at the Lodge, the Society's property in Burwood. Members are encouraged to use the Society's instruments located there to gain first-hand experience in telescope use. These instruments include a 508mm equatorial reflector and a number of smaller reflectors. Members are also encouraged to make use of the Society's country property located near Heathcote, some 90-minute drive north of Melbourne. There are a range of instruments available for members to use. The larger two only available through appropriate training, which range from 300mm to 1000mm in aperture. Also located on the site is the 8.5 metre radio telescope, which members can access with involvement to the radio astronomy section. Members are encouraged to make and use telescopes. Advice and help on both matters are provided willingly to newcomers desiring to do the same. Instrument making is only one of the number of common interest activities catered for within the Society. Other areas of interest that members can participate in include deep sky observing, astrophotography, lunar and planetary observing, meteor, auroral, comet, radio astronomy, computing, cosmology and astrophysics, historical studies and research in astronomy in general. Contact details for various section directors are provided in the yearbook. Further information may be obtained by visiting the ASV website, and notification of events are given in the Crux Extra Bulletin sent out via email to members every other week. Please note that the ASV will confirm, so that is to say conform to all government health directives. The ASV events may be required to be cancelled, moved or postponed as a result. More information about the Astronomical Society can be gleaned if you write to the Secretary, Astronomical Society Victoria, GPO Box 1059, Melbourne, Victoria 3001. That's the Secretary, Astronomical Society Victoria, GPO Box 1059, Melbourne, Victoria 3001. But the best thing to do, of course, is to visit the website at www.asv.org.au and all will be revealed. Righto, Mr. Brash. Where to now? Struth. Okay, so time is 10:12. Sky notes. Okay, let's do some sky notes. Now, usually the sky notes can take me a little while to get through, so let me just make a start on this. Sky notes courtesy of the Science Works Planetarium on the other side of Melbourne there. Sky notes for June 2022. Winter solstice. This month on the 21st we will reach the winter solstice in the southern hemisphere. On that day the sun rises and sets at its most northerly points on the eastern and western horizons. Its daytime path crosses the sky is lowest and shortest, and we therefore experience the shortest day and the longest day of the year. Winter and summer solstices and the spring and autumn equinoxes result from the tilt of Earth's rotational axis, which sits at an angle of 23.5 degrees from the plane of our orbit around the Sun. Full moon at perigee. There's an image here that I'm going to bring up in a tick. On the night of June 14 to 15, we will have a larger and brighter than average full moon, often referred to as a supermoon. The moon will be at its closest to Earth for the month perigee, which will also coincide with the moon being opposite the sun from us, which will make the entire sunlit side of the lunar surface visible a full moon. The perigee full moon in a clear sky will be about 14% larger and perhaps 30% brighter than a full moon at apogee, when our neighbour is furthest from Earth. It's or so-called micromoon. The difference in the moon's distance at maximum apogee compared to maximum perigee is a little over 42,000 kilometres, which results in a noticeable difference in size and brightness. Now, I'll just bring up an image that shows you this difference. And okay, so those folks watching the Melbourne television repeater and YouTube can see this. Going back to the article, so it continues on by saying that, however, at full moon or other phases too, we often experience the moon's illusions. When close to the horizon, our neighbour will seem larger than higher in the sky. Several factors seem to influence our viewing of the moon, as I mentioned last week, in fact. So the image that you're seeing at the moment is it's a picture of the moon taken in the northern hemisphere, so it doesn't reflect how we see the moon in the southern hemisphere, but nevertheless it's the same moon. In this one here is 1985 comparison of two full moons, one at apogee on left and one at perigee at right. These are northern hemisphere views, which are upside down to the southern hemisphere perspective, but at least what you see here is the difference. You can actually see by eye what a full moon would look like when it's at full apogee and full perigee, as such, as the article is saying here. So we sense the sky as a dome over our heads and mentally place the moon on this imaginary bowl. Perceptions, however, can often be affected by comparisons we make. Our clever but misleading brains see the moon low in the sky and judge it against large familiar things such as the horizon, hills and buildings or trees, which are relatively close, whereas with the moon high in the sky we have no such objects to compare it to, and so perceive it as further away and smaller. Let me just come back to me. Alright, so another factor that may well apply to the fact that light from the moon, when close to the horizon, travels through a thicker horizontal layer of atmosphere before reaching our eyes, which creates more atmospheric distortion and moon glow compared to a thin vertical layer above us when the moon is overhead. Alright, 5 visible planets this month. Last month we enjoyed 4 planets together, but this month all 5 visible planets can be seen at once from early rising Saturn, followed by Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and lastly Mercury just before dawn. If you watch over several nights, from the 18th particularly onwards, the moon will appear to move night by night through the planetary lineup as it transitions through the third quarter phase to new moon on the 24th of June. Now they show an image here which I didn't save, but they're saying here that there's a program that you can use called Stellarium. It's a planetarium type program which gives you a view of the sky and where stars and constellations and whatnot are in the sky. It's a free program to download. Here it says, here in this shot, which I have, like I said, I haven't saved, but here in this shot you see in Stellarium view of the 5 visible planets from 6 a.m. on June 16, looking across the sky. So in the image from June 16 at least, Saturn is high in the northwest in Capricorn, Jupiter and Mars are lower in the north in Pisces, in the northeast sits bright Venus and Aries, and close to the horizon is Mercury in Taurus, which lies mostly below the horizon. The ecliptic is the yellow line close to or along which all planets are situated. As in last month's view, Vesta, the second largest object in the asteroid belt, is marked again as is Neptune, but this month Uranus joins the lineup. None of these would be visible with the unaided eye. However, if you had a telescope and a clear night away from light pollution, you might capture 7 planets in one go. Pretty good. Okay, Melbourne sun times for June. On the 1st of June, sunrise was at 7:26 a.m., setting at 5:09 p.m. and the day length was 9 hours 42 minutes. On Saturday, the 11th of June, the sun will rise at 7:32 a.m., setting at 5:07 p.m. with an average day length of 9 hours 35 minutes. On Tuesday, June 21, sun will rise at 7:35 a.m., setting at 5:08 p.m., 9 hours 32 minutes. On Wednesday, the 30th of June, the sun will rise at 7:34 a.m., setting at 5:11 p.m., with the average day length of 9 hours and 34 minutes. Moon phases. First quarter will be on the 8th of June, Wednesday. There will be a full moon on Tuesday the 14th. Third quarter on Tuesday the 21st, and a new moon will be on Wednesday the 29th. Also on Wednesday the 29th is lunar perigee, furthest from the Earth, at 406,580 kilometres. On Wednesday, the 15th of June, is lunar perigee, nearest to Earth, at 357,432 kilometres. Planets. Mercury will at last become into view from mid-month, when it will rise just before dawn, from around 5:30 a.m. when it will join with the other four visible planets in a wonderful lineup in the northeastern and northern skies. Venus is drawing closer to the northeastern horizon, but it is easily seen as the brightest object in the night sky, second only to Moon. It can be seen rising from 4:30 a.m. early in June and from 5 a.m. later in the month before fading in the dawn light. Earth has its June or mid-year solstice this month, winter solstice for the southern hemisphere and summer solstice for the northern hemisphere. The Sun makes its most northerly, shortest and lowest daily path in the sky, reaching its winter limit as seen from the southern hemisphere. On this shortest day of the year, the Sun's rays reach the ground at their shallowest angle, hence the longest shadows, and give the least energy per square metre. Solstice comes from the Latin sol, as in sun, and sistere, which is to stand still. On the day of the solstice, the Sun is said to be briefly stand still as it reaches its northern extreme rising and setting points. After the 21st, it resumes daily shifts, but reversing with rising and setting a little further south each day and slowly lengthening daytime path as we move to spring equinox and eventually summer solstice. Mars rises around 2 a.m. early in June and by 3 a.m. later in the month, before reaching a high point in the north and then fading from view well before dawn. Jupiter can easily be seen rising from 1:30 a.m. early in June and gradually later in the month. It will progressively appear higher in the north each night before becoming lost by the dawn. The positions of Jupiter and Mars swap this month, with the red planet drawing down to the horizon while the Jovian giant rises higher. Our Earth-based perspective looking out across the solar system regularly gives us interesting examples of how planets appear to switch positions in the night sky. This planetary dance reflects two underlying aspects of our solar system as witnessed from Earth. Firstly, the fact that the inner planets Mercury, Venus and Mars move faster around the Sun compared to the slower outer planets Jupiter and Saturn, and secondly, where the planets happen to be in their respective orbits around the Sun. As mentioned earlier this month, our nighttime line of sight or broad viewing angle from east to northwest captures all 5 planets, visible planets. Saturn in June will rise just before midnight and rise high in the north, but by the end of the month it will rise significantly earlier at around 9:30 p.m. Its yellowish tinge should make it reasonably easy to spot as it leads the other planets until it too fades before dawn. Meteors. There are minor meteor showers this month centered in Scorpius and Sagittarius. And the Boötids, B-O-O-T-I-D-S, Boötids, can also appear from very late June into early July. Although low in number, less than 10 an hour, they can often be spectacular with bright and with many displaying a yellowy orange colour. The best time to see meteors is after midnight with no moon in the night sky. Now, a quick rundown of stars and constellations. In the west, while Orion disappears below the western horizon with the saucepan asterism, his 2 dogs, Canis Major with the star Sirius and Canis Minor with the star Procyon both remain visible in the west and northeast respectively. In the north, Leo the Lion is still visible in the north with the bright star Regulus. Look for a large hook of stars or inverted question mark to locate the curving mane and shoulders. In the east this month, Scorpius is fully visible in the southeast and with the red giant star Antares as the middle of three stars that form the Scorpion's body. As we enter winter, Sagittarius the Archer begins to rise in the east after Scorpius, with the Centaur's bow and arrow, also the famous teapot asterism, leading the way. In the south, the Southern Cross, or Crux, is high in the south this month, with the pointers Alpha and Beta Centauri a little lower down in the southeast. Visible from darker locations are the two neighbouring galaxies that sit as two small fuzzy patches in the southwest, the large and small clouds of Magellan. For viewers in the southern latitudes, they are of special sight as they cannot be seen from equivalent latitudes in the northern hemisphere. Also visible in the evening is less light polluted skies sits the broad band of Milky Way stretching across the sky from southeast to northwest. This concentration of hundreds of billions of stars also contains numerous interstellar dust clouds which appear as dark areas. We see small numbers of foreground stars, but beyond them, the dark clouds block out more distant stars of our galaxy, which of course the James Webb Telescope is able to peer through, and as well as our radio telescopes. The International Space Station, this is just some of the passings, not all of them. The International Space Station, on the 7th of June, Tuesday the 7th of June, there is a passing from 6:32 a.m. to 6:38 a.m. southwest to northeast. On Friday the 10th of June, there's a passing at 5:47 a.m. to 5:50 a.m. northwest to northeast. In the evening, there's a passing on the 19th of June, Sunday 19th of June, from 6:21 p.m. to 6:26 p.m. northwest to east-southeast. And also on Wednesday the 22nd at 5:32 p.m. to 5:39 p.m. northwest to southeast. Heavens Above gives predictions for visible passes of space stations and major satellites, live sky views and 3D visualizations. Before you enter the site, put your location in the configuration file for the website. Heavens Above is this place to go to, heavensabove.com. Just type in Heavens Above in your favourite search engine to find that. Alright, 10:29. I'll just run through these first few bunch of dates. On this day, on the 1st of June 2002, Czech Republic becomes the first country to ban light pollution. There you go. On the 2nd of June 1966, Surveyor 1 reaches the moon as first probe to land on another body. On the 3rd of June 1965, Ed White takes America's first spacewalk as part of Gemini 4. Excuse me. On the 6th of June 1971, Soyuz 2 testing 1, 2, 3 carries the first people to space station. Salyut 1 and Salyut 2. Sorry, Salyut 1. Salyut 1. Okay. On the 7th of June 1879, Johann Velt proves with parallax that dwarf star Proxima Centauri is the same distance as Alpha Centauri binary. Okay. Not 1879. On the 8th of June 2004, a transit of Venus is observed, first in 122 years. I think I remember that. On the 9th of June 1986, Rogers' report on Space Shuttle Challenger explosion reveals solid rocket booster fault and serious management and safety problems with the US program. And one more. On the 10th of June 2003, launch of Mars's exploration rover Spirit, which lands in 2004 and exceeds expectations, operating to 2010. Pretty good. 2003 to 2010. Not bad. Oh, I'll just throw in one more date. The 13th of June 1983, Pioneer 10 becomes the first spacecraft to travel beyond the planets of the solar system. You're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria. Alright, a little bit of a promo here. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Friday the 17th of June it starts. Neighbourhood Earth is the ultimate space experience. This award-winning exhibition combines the latest science and cutting-edge technology to tell the story of space exploration like never before. The highlights will be Neighbourhood Earth tells the story of space exploration like never before, immersive cinema experience and cutting-edge technology. And it continues on to say that get ready for an immersive space adventure. Neighbourhood Earth is an award-winning exhibition combining the latest science and cutting-edge technology to create ultimate space experience with 360-degree projection, 8.1 surround sound, and giant projection map dome. The exhibition's key set piece will transport you to space inside an epic cinematic environment, tapping into your desire to travel to a whole new world. Explore space artifacts, museum quality models and examples of spacecraft, tools and astronaut suits, as well as many fun and engaging learning activities. Perfect for all ages. Enjoy time together while learning about our closest celestial neighbours. There it is. Okay, so it's called Neighbourhood Earth. Neighbourhood Earth, the ultimate space experience. Which kicks off on Friday 17th June. So just type in Neighbourhood Earth in your favourite search engine and all will be revealed on that one. I thought I'd just throw that in again for what it's worth. Next. We've got to keep an eye on this time. Oh dear. Alright, at 26 minutes to 11 we have: how do scientists weigh celestial objects? You often hear when reading about galaxies and such things that a galaxy weighs such and such a weight, and you often wonder how that is determined. Well, let's see what this article says. There is a picture here that I can bring up, particular galaxy in question. So this is dated May 25, 2022. How do scientists weigh celestial objects, you might ask? The image on the screen, by the way, it isn't to scale, but it's large enough to weigh galaxies like NGC 7714, and that's what you're looking at. It's a real thing. It's a real galaxy. It's not an artist's impression, but it's galaxy NGC 7714. So it's saying here, it's true that you can't simply place a planet or a galaxy on a scale to measure how heavy it is. Luckily, astronomers have a few tricks up their sleeves. The first trick is understanding that gravity and mass are inherently linked. It's important to note that weight, which measures the strength of your local gravitational pull on an object, can change, while mass does not. For example, if you step on a scale on Earth and weigh 150 pounds or 68 kilograms, that same scale would read 379 pounds or 172 kilograms on Jupiter. Your personal mass isn't what's changing, but your weight changes because your massive planets exert greater gravitational pull on you than less massive ones. So, to find the mass of an object, astronomers can simply look at how long it takes nearby bodies to orbit that object, provided they know the distance between the bodies. They can calculate the mass of the central body. In the case of binary stars, astronomers can observe the stars orbiting each other to determine their combined mass. If the stars are nearby and astronomers can see how closely each star orbits their companion center of mass, they can determine each star's individual masses or mass. For galaxies, it's a little different, but by examining how fast a galaxy is rotating, researchers can similarly determine its mass. There's another common trick astronomers can use to estimate mass: luminosity. In most cases, a star or galaxy's luminosity, how brightly it shines, is roughly proportional to its mass. So, provided you know one, you can solve for the other. In the case of stars, scientists use computer simulations of how these objects evolve to better understand the relationship between a star's mass and its luminosity, as well as other parameters that can be observed, like temperature and composition. You're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria. Voyager 1 glitch. Strange signals from vulnerable probe has NASA baffled. This was published 16 days ago. I've held on to this article last few Fridays, so I'll do this one now. It's never too late for a Voyager 1 mystery in deep space. Spending 45 years traversing the solar system really does a number on a spacecraft. NASA's Voyager 1 mission, launched in 1977, passed into what scientists call interstellar space in 2012 and just kept going. The spacecraft is now 14.5 billion miles or 23.3 billion kilometers away from Earth. And while Voyager 1 is still operating properly, scientists on the mission recently noticed that it appeared confused about its location in space, without going into safe mode or otherwise sounding an alarm. A mystery like this is sort of par for the course at this stage of the Voyager mission, Susanna Dodd, project manager for Voyager 1 and its twin, Voyager 2, at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California, said in a statement. The spacecraft are both almost 45 years old, which is far beyond what the mission planners anticipated, Dodd added. We are also in interstellar space, a high radiation environment that no spacecraft have flown before. The glitch has to do with Voyager 1's Attitude Articulation and Control System, or AACS, which keeps the spacecraft and its antenna in proper orientation. And the AACS seems to be working just fine. Since the spacecraft is receiving commands, acting on them, and sending science data back to Earth with the same signal strength as usual, nevertheless the AACS is sending the spacecraft's handlers junk telemetry data. The NASA statement does not specify when the issue began or how long it has lasted. The agency says that Voyager's personnel will continue to investigate the issue and attempt to either fix or adapt to it. That's a slow process, since a signal from Earth currently takes 20 hours and 33 minutes to reach Voyager 1. Receiving the spacecraft's response carries the same delay. 20 hours and 33 minutes. How's that? DX. The twin Voyager 2 probe, also launched in 1977, is behaving normally, NASA said. The power the twin spacecraft can produce is always falling, and mission team members have turned some components off to save juice. Measures they hope will keep the probes working through to at least 2025. And but there are some big challenges for the engineering team, Dodd said, but I think if there is a way to solve this issue with the AACS, our team will find it. Okay, and what really gets me though is that the fact that we have our deep space tracking networks capable of being able to detect these really, really weak signals amongst the noise. There's got to be a point that's reached where the signal gets just so weak that it gets mingled with the noise of the system. Amazing stuff. All right. Ah, dear. Okay. Hopefully this won't take too long to read out this one. Why are Uranus and Neptune different colours? Now I've got a picture here of this, so I shall bring that up, and let's see. Alright, for years astronomers have wondered why the otherwise near identical ice giants are two different shades of blue. A new model may finally reveal the answer. June 1, 2022. To the untrained eye, it might be difficult to immediately differentiate between Uranus and Neptune. Yes, the colour of Uranus is often described as cyan, while the colour of Neptune is frequently cited as azure. But no matter your nomenclature, it's hard to deny the ice giants look quite similar at a quick glance, and that's not entirely surprisingly when you consider that similar components make up both worlds. For years, researchers have struggled to develop a model that accurately explains the sight colour difference between Uranus and Neptune. But now, scientists believe that they might have finally cracked the code to why our solar system's two most distant planets are slightly different shades of blue. The new model suggests that while haze accumulates in the atmospheres of both planets, Uranus's sluggish atmosphere is bad at dispelling that haze, giving it a slightly lighter shade of blue than Neptune. The results were published in May 23 in the Journal of Geophysical Research, Planets. While Venus is often called Earth's sister world, the two rocky planets are far cry from twins. Uranus and Neptune, on the other hand, are incredibly similar. And there's just another graphic I've got here, which I'll just switch to quickly. Okay. For starters, Neptune and Uranus are basically the same size. Both worlds are just over 30,000 miles or 50,000 kilometers wide, and Uranus is only a measly 1,500 kilometers larger in diameter than Neptune. Their masses are also about the same. Uranus is some 14 times the mass of Earth, while Neptune is about 17 times that mass of Earth. Being ice giants, both planets are primarily composed of elements heavier than hydrogen and helium, such as oxygen, carbon, nitrogen and sulfur. Although the tippy tops of both worlds' atmospheres are predominantly hydrogen, helium and methane, their mantles are chock full of water, ammonia and grain methane, and again methane. From their sizes to their masses to their atmospheric compositions, the solar system's ice giants share many properties with one another, so it's no surprise that their differing colour schemes have long left astronomers scratching their heads. Although the ice giants' compositions are nearly the same, the new research describes how Uranus has more haze in its upper atmosphere than Neptune does, which gives Uranus a slightly whiter tint. According to the new model, if neither planet had any such haze, they would be almost exactly the same shade of blue. Unlike past models, the new model looked at the ice giants through a wide range of wavelengths, corresponding to numerous atmospheric layers. It also moved the haze particles deeper into the planet's clouds, which before now researchers thought was a region that only contained layers of methane and hydrogen sulfide ices. Both Uranus and Neptune are thought to condense methane ice into their hazy upper clouds, with the methane falling to the deeper layers of the atmospheres as snow. However, Neptune's more active atmosphere means this methane snow falls more efficiently than it does on Uranus, giving it a broader blue colour than its twin. The model doesn't just stop at the haze either. It also explains Neptune's aptitude for developing dark spots. Like Jupiter's Great Red Spot, researchers believe that these anonymous spots are likely storms in Neptune's and occasionally Uranus's lowest atmosphere. According to the latest model, either a darkening or clearing of the deepest layer of haze could be responsible for creating these shadowy features. Okay, I'll leave it at that. You're tuned at VK3 EKH, that is the ASV radio, and the time is about whatever it is. It's 13 minutes to. Alright, I'm running out of time. So what I will do, how long is that article when I look at it? I say that's not long at all. But what I want to do, and I'm going to have to hold on to that till next week, I think. How long is that article? Alright. I don't need to really be worried about finishing things at 11 o'clock. It's not that critical, but anyway. This is VK3 EKH ASV radio. Alright. Oh, let's come back to me. Bring up the camera. Where's my camera? There it is. Cut. Alright. The whale signal. I know I've mentioned this before numerous times, but apparently the WOW signal, an amateur astronomer may have pinpointed alien signal origin. This is dated May 26. A global astronomical community is edging nearer to determining whether intelligent alien life really exists, and government agencies and academics may have been given a hand by an amateur astronomer. That's because astronomy YouTuber and space enthusiast Alberto Calbolero believes he might have pinpointed the source of a mysterious signal famously attributed to intelligent alien life, according to a Live Science article. According to Alberto, the so-called WOW signal detected by radio telescopes on August 15, 1977 may have originated as a sun-like star 1800 light-years from Earth in Sagittarius constellation. The WOW signal was discovered by astronomer Jerry Eman using the Idaho State University's Big Ear radio telescope. It was a very brief but powerful burst of radio waves lasting 1 minute and 12 seconds. The WOW signal is considered the best SETI candidate radio signal that we have picked up with our telescopes. Alberto explained in an interview with Live Science, SETI, which stands for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, has been looking for signs of aliens for more than 60 years. At the time the WOW signal was detected, the Big Ear radio telescope, which is no longer operational, was searching for messages in the electromagnetic frequency band of 1420.4056 MHz, produced by hydrogen. Since hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe, there is good logic in guessing that an intelligent civilization within our Milky Way galaxy desires of attracting attention to itself might broadcast a strong narrowband beacon signal at or near the frequency of neutral hydrogen line. Eamon wrote in a 30-year anniversary report of the observation. When Eamon found an anomalous signal bearing an alphanumeric code in data from the Big Ear telescope, we wrote the word "wow" on the printout, giving the signal its name. Astronomers have since suggested that the signal may have been an intelligent alien life form's version of our own Arecibo message, which was sent out to the globular star cluster M13 in 1974 in a bid to transmit information to extraterrestrials. In 2017, a team of scientists suggested that the signal could have come from a hydrogen cloud and a comet. Recently, amateur astronomer Alberto decided to try to pinpoint where the signal may have come from. Knowing the Big Ear telescope was pointed towards the Sagittarius constellation when it detected the WOW signal, he searched through a catalogue of stars from the European Space Agency's Gaia satellite. He says, "I found specifically one sun-like star," Alberto said, referring to a star called 2MASS. Here we go. 2MASS 1928-1982-2640123, about 1800 light years away, that has a temperature, diameter and luminosity that strongly resembles our Sun. Alberto published his findings in the International Journal of Astrobiology this month. He says Alberto believes this star could be a good target for future observation. In particular, future observations should aim to detect any exoplanets that might be in the Sun's habitable zone, meaning life may have evolved there. For a long time, researchers have looked to the Sun-like stars as most likely candidates for harbouring intelligent alien life. However, researchers from University of Copenhagen recently suggested we should also look at binary star systems, as they may teach us new things about the early formations of planets where life could evolve over millennia. With observatories such as the James Webb Space Telescope and the ELT, European Large Telescope, and the SKA, Square Kilometre Array, all expected to start searching for intelligent alien life at different points this decade. We may soon know a great deal more about the potential origin point of the WOW signal and whether it might have really been produced by extraterrestrial life forms. You're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel. Alright, I'm going to go straight to our video, Space Weather Woman. Let me just bring that up, because her little article goes for where is she? There she is. Goes for an hour. Sorry, goes for 8 minutes. Heavens above, and it was. All right, now let me see. I've got to do a few tricks here to get this to work. So let me see if we can do this without too much stuffing around. All right, stand by for the Space Weather Woman.
We're coming down from some fast solar wind that bumped us up to storm levels, and more is on the way. Those stories and more in the news this week. This space weather forecast is sponsored in part by Millersville University. Come get certified in broadcast space weather. Visit millersville.edu. Look at our Earth-facing disk. You can see that big crescent-shaped coronal hole. That has been sending us some fast solar wind over the past couple days, and it's bumped us up to storm levels and kind of kept us there for a day or so. But this region now is rotating off of the Earth-facing disk, and therefore things are beginning to calm down. But never fret, aurora photographers. There is yet another coronal hole that's going to be rotating into the Earth strike zone here about in the next 4 or 5 days, and that could get us yet another burst of fast solar wind and more aurora chances. So just hang in there. Now also we have only 3 active regions on the Earth facing disk right now. Region 30, 23, 24, and 25. Only region 30, 25 is a big flare player, but it's only a skosh of a big flare player. So things have definitely calmed down when it comes to solar flares and also solar flux. We're actually struggling to keep up into the triple digits, and that will easily continue over the next few days, possibly over a week before things begin to get a little bit better. Meanwhile, as we take a look at the far side of the sun, this is stereo A, and it's staring at the sun just a little bit from the side. You can see all of the activity. It's just a lot of little puffs, These are small little mini solar storms that are being launched pretty much every direction except towards Earth. Into view, man, it looks like it's kind of fizzled out. So this might have been a big region maybe a week ago on the sun's far side. In fact, I believe it launched a few solar storms, but it looks like it's kind of lost its muster. And so as it rotates into Earth view, don't expect any huge boost in the solar flux. So for amateur radio operators and emergency responders, it looks like radio propagation is going to remain kind of just hovering in the triple digits. The nice thing means, however, is that there is not going to be any risk for big radio blackouts. And now for your Leo, Meo, Geo orbit outlook. As we take a look at our low energy particle environment, these are the particles that can gather on the outside of spacecraft and cause surface charging and other types of electrical discharges. We can see it late on the 27th. We can see particle injections kind of beginning to build that flux up in Geo, as well as clear down deep into the Meo environment. In fact, we're beginning to see surface charging issues from our radiation clock, especially in the post-midnight pre-dawn sector. And this lasts easily through the 28th, and by the 29th, things begin to kind of settle down a little bit with these low energy particles. But when we flip to our higher energy particles, now these are the ones that cause internal charging because they can penetrate deep into the spacecraft and cause electrical upsets from the inside. Taking a look at these particles at 1 MeV, you can actually see right around the 28th, these particles actually get flushed. You can see that because the radiation belts here in this figure actually turns really blue. But very shortly thereafter, we begin to build those particles back up, and you can see the radiation belts beginning to get really intense. And this goes deep into the Meo orbits, clear down at about 2 Earth radii, all the way out to Geo. And these particles are going to continue to intensify over the next day or two. So you satellite operators, especially in Meo and Geo orbits, expect internal charging could be an issue over the next few days. Switching to our moon, we are now passing through the new moon phase on our way to a first quarter, and by the 5th, the moon will still be only about 30% illuminated. So you night sky watchers, if you want to catch those dim objects in the sky and possibly some aurora, now is a great time while this bright companion of ours is not quite so bright. Switching to our solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we are still calming down from that fast solar wind from that big crescent-shaped coronal hole that's now kind of waning and rotating to the sun's far side. But we do have more chances later in the week for storming. In fact, at high latitudes, NOAA is expecting about active conditions as we begin to move into the weekend, with up to about a 20% chance of a major storm. But this is probably going to up even higher and go into storm levels with a decent chance as soon as we get that new coronal hole rotating in through the Earth strike zone, which should happen sometime in the weekend. Now, at mid-latitudes, we're only expecting unsettled conditions with only about a 10% chance of active conditions, but again, this is going to likely ramp up. We could easily see active conditions as we move into the weekend and possibly a chance for more storming. So aurora photographers, definitely if you're at high latitudes, keep those batteries charged, and at mid-latitudes, possibly, if you are a determined aurora chaser, could you go out and take a look. Switching to our solar flare and particle radiation storm outlook over the coming week, believe it or not, everything is back into the green, and this is because we only have 3 minor flare players on the Earth-facing disk. The main one is region 3025, and NOAA is only giving it about a 5% chance of M-class flares, and that means that radio blackouts really have been calming down, and that should make GPS users very happy because the risk for radio blackouts on Earth's day side is pretty much nil. But what it also means is that the solar flux has also been taking a hit. You can see we're actually been hovering really right at the edge of triple digits. In fact, over the past couple days, we've kind of been dipping back into the high 90s for a little while. So these conditions are easily going to continue over this next week, especially as we only have very dim regions rotating into Earth view. So amateur radio operators and emergency responders, well, you're going to probably take a little bit of a hit in radio propagation, but things should still remain just on the hairy edge of good over this next week. Now, one nice thing is that because we don't have any major flare players, the proton or the radiation storm risk has really died down this week, so we're back in the D1 minor range, and this means even high-risk passengers, you have no issues worrying about when and where to fly, especially if you're a frequent flyer. Everything looks like it's all in the green. So the space weather this week continues to be a bit on the quiet side. We are calming down from that fast solar wind that brought us up to storm levels for a little while and gave us a dose of aurora. And aurora photographers, just hang in there, because we're going to have yet another chance for more aurora in and around the weekend when that another coronal hole rotates into the Earth strike zone. So just, especially if you're at high latitudes, you're going to get a good chance, but even down at mid latitudes, you could get a little bit. Now, amateur radio operators and emergency responders, well, things are okay for you. You're probably enjoying the fact that we have less noise on the bands on the day side of Earth right now, but sadly that solar flux is dipping down just a little bit. Sometimes we're even in the high 90s instead of triple digits, so you're probably noticing radio propagation suffering just a little bit on the day side. Hang in there, we'll probably have another week of this, and then things should really begin to build back up again. But of course, with that comes radio blackouts and more noise on the band, so who knows? Well, there's always a trade-off, isn't it? Now, you GPS users, well, we've got it quiet down with that solar storm going away, and we don't have a lot of solar storms on the horizon, at least not really big ones, and that solar flux has dipped back down for you. So this is a pretty good time, and we have no worries for radio blackouts, and what that means is that GPS reception pretty much all around the globe should be top-notch. I'm Tamara the Scove, the Space Weather Woman. Thank you for watching.
One, two. Is it there now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's that little red USB button on the mixer. Oh, it's tricky, guys. It's tricky. All right, you're tuned to ASV Radio VK3 EKH with the regular Friday night bulletin. So, yeah, apologies for the video. The audio not going out on HF. It went out on the YouTube and TV repeater without a problem, but I just had to select the right configuration for the HF1 and HF2, and of course it did the same thing in reverse. Dear. Anyway, not to worry. All right, well, I can see it's 5 past the hour, but I really did want to show you this footage. That's close-up of the sun. It only goes for about 20 seconds, this, and there's another bit here too. So for those watching the TV repeater and the YouTube channel, and this is best viewed on the YouTube channel, VK3CSJ YouTube channel, because it's high definition. I'll just run it making sure that everything stays in place audio wise. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, okay. Alright, now I'm just going to go a little bit over time. A spacecraft looping around the Sun has made its first close approach and filmed encounter of its glorious detail. The European Space Agency solar orbiter entered the close encounter known as Persephone on the 26th of March, coming in at a distance of about 48 million kilometers inside the orbit of Mercury. At that proximity, temperatures reached around 500 degrees Celsius. Future Persephons are expected to get even closer and hotter. As it swooped, hang on just a sec, I've noticed the images stopped. Let me just restart that. In fact, I'll go to another one I've got here. Alright, there it is, and I'll just put that on loop for a second. Alright, okay. As it swooped around its orbit, the spacecraft saw the Sun as we have never seen it before, including a fascinating, mysterious feature nicknamed a hedgehog and detailed views of usually hidden solar poles. These new observations, taken with Solar Orbiter's 10 scientific instruments working together for the first time, should provide a wealth of data for teasing out the behaviour of the Sun, including its wild magnetic fields and the sometimes chaotic weather it blasts out into interplanetary space. We already saw a particular high-resolution image from the spacecraft as it made its close approach. Now ESA has released video of the encounter for a solar probe's eye view of our magnificent star. Solar Orbiter is set to make a huge difference to solar science, not least because it can show us parts of the Sun we can't usually see. For example, because of Earth's vantage point in orbit around the Sun's equator, its poles are extremely difficult to study. Only a spacecraft orbiting above and below the Sun can see these regions. The polar regions are thought to be extremely important regions of the solar magnetic fields that play such a huge role in solar activity. However, because the poles are so hard to see, we don't know what happens to the magnetic fields there, which in situ, with its suite of instruments, Solar Orbiter offers unprecedented insight into the enigmatic regions. Its view of the solar South Pole on March 30 revealed a region seeing with a loop of magnetic field lines arcing away from the Sun. Anyway, I'll leave that there. If you want to see the full article and the other videos that are associated with the article, it's www.sciencealert.com. So that's one word there, Science Alert, sciencealert.com. www.sciencealert.com, and look under the article called "These videos from a space probe flying past the Sun are truly out of this world." There it is. Okay. Heavens above. Okay, so we had to drop a few articles tonight, but that's okay. We can pick it up next week. All right. Well, I hope everybody found tonight's arrangement of some value and some interest with the sky notes from the Space Planetarium, from Science Works, the planetarium, and the various other articles I managed to throw in tonight as well. There's 3 emails that have come through. Don and Stuart, I think it is, and Andrew. Yes, okay. G'day, Clint. Yep, no worries. Thanks, Stuart. Good to see you there again. And Andrew is listening on 80 meters. Okay. So thanks for the emails, guys, and from you there, Don. Not a problem. Okay. So with that, what else? Just thinking quickly. Was there anything else? Don't think so. No. Alright, so this is VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria. We're concluding tonight's session, and we'll close down the transmission on our medium wave surface on 1865 kilohertz. I thank you for listening to the AM transmission on 160. Reports of the AM transmission I would appreciate. You can send it to vk3ekh@gmail.com. vk3ekh@gmail.com. Any audio recordings you'd like to make of the transmission and send on to me would be also appreciated, because it would be quite interesting to hear what I sound like. Well, anyway, alright. Further information about the Astronomical Society of Victoria can be found from www.asv.org.au, of which this broadcast is on behalf of since 1988. This is VK3 EKH closing down on 1865. All callbacks will be taken on 80 metres only. Stations stand by on 80 metres. This is VK3 EKH concluding 1865. Cheers, guys. Thank you for listening. Okay, that's AM, lovely AM mode. We might run another AM mode here on 80 metres in the very near future too. I just feel inclined to do that. Anyway, alright, this is VK3 EKH taking a listen on 3541 kilohertz for any stations wishing to check in. Go now. Okay, there's a few stations there some week. VK5 KK2, VK3 TJS, VK3 HDX. Who else is there?
VK3 Golf Lima.
Okay, VK3 GL and VK3 KIS. Anybody else? Sure, yeah. Righto, VK5 FUSB there at the last one. So we have VK5 KK2, VK3 TJS, VK3 HDX, 3GL, 3KOS, 3JR, and 5 FUSB. E. Fuse. I've got to remember the fuse. Is there any other stations wishing to quickly check in? Thanks, Tony. Not a problem. You must be running really low power because you're not all that strong here, but we can hear you anyway. All right. Acknowledging VK3 VAT there. He's a local lad. Now, there was another station that's fairly weak. Try again. VK3 EKH listening for you. Got you, Martin. No worries. Sorry about that. GH. Okay. Woo. All right. So that's definitely a few stations there. Take it away, Ian. VK5 KKT, Two Worlds, VK3 EKH.
Excellent signal coming in tonight, Chris. Your 8 metre signal, 20/9, averages right way through. Your 160 metre signal was quite strong at the beginning, but it got weaker and weaker as the evening went on, and picked up a little bit and down again. But it was noticeable here. But, only an S3 or an S4 perhaps, but certainly 80 metres was excellent. Interesting about the Voyager. Those, how they're still going, that's incredible. Massive technology there. Alright, won't hold it long, we got a big callback. All the best, thank you very much for your efforts. VK3 EKH. This is VK5 at double KT, over.
Thanks, Ian. VK5 double KT, VK3 EKH returning. Very good, Ian. You're hovering around 10/9. 5 and 9 plus 10. Not a bad signal coming into north, into Narre Warren south. And yes, it was, wasn't it? I always find information on the Voyager probes most interesting because, once again, we're talking about man-made spacecraft that's really, really out there. And the fact that the spacecraft are still pointing towards Earth, that nothing has nothing has affected their orientation, and that the dish is still beaming towards a signal towards Earth is one thing, but I think it's just a 20-watt transmitter that's on board those two Voyagers. So the rest of the hard work is taken up by our deep space network, the big dishes, 70-meter dish out at Canberra, and the extremely low noise amplifiers that they use to detect these weak signals. So it really is amazing. I totally agree. I just think it's really, really amazing stuff. Thanks, Ian. Across to you there, Jack at Shepparton, VK3TJS, VK3EKH.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. VK3EKH and the group VK3TJS. Good evening to you, and I'll just checked in. For most part, transmission was quite okay, and except last 10 minutes, the noise just came up and your signal dropped about 59. But on occasions, you have 59 plus 20, and just now about 59 plus 10. So, but the rest of the signals people check in, I find difficult to hear, so I'm not sure what's happening. A lot of noise on the band. So, thanks for the transmission, and hope you have a good weekend, Clint, and everyone else as well. So, good to listen. And stay not sleeping. VK3, this is VK3TJS.
Thanks, Jack. VK3TJS, VK3EKH. Yeah, it's... Well, whenever I'm on a holiday or the weekend, I automatically have late nights, so I don't get much sleep these days. And of course, I've got a problem with my car at the moment. The Subaru is playing me up and it's giving me headaches like you wouldn't believe. So, but that's another story. Thanks, Jack. Thanks for listening in, mate. Thanks for the report. You're also 5 and 9 plus 10 here too. Not strong signals from everybody tonight, I see, but there it is. Don, VK3HDX, VK3EKH.
Yeah, good evening, Clint. VK3EKH and the group VK3HDX. Good evening to all the others. Heard everybody when they called in tonight, so signal's quite good here. Great broadcast, Clint, and Voyager stuff, amazing, isn't it? I tell you what, they don't make them like they used to. Just incredible. You've got a big callback, so I won't hold it. Signals were great here tonight. Listened on AM on 160, sounded terrific. Thanks for your efforts, Clint, and we'll look forward to next week. VK3EKH and the group VK3HDX.
Thanks, Don. VK3HDX, VK3EKH. Your signal is also it's 20 over actually. Good 20 over. Normally I see you a bit stronger, but definitely the strongest tonight. So excellent, and your reports are always welcome for sure. So beautiful. Thanks, Don. Graham, VK3GL at Bunyip, VK3EKH.
Trust everyone is well, and Clint, thanks very much for the broadcast. I heard the last, pretty much the last half hour of it, whilst I was here in the chat. I'd been otherwise engaged in doing some other things, not working tonight, so that's a little bit of a bonus, but I worked last night, so there we be. Gave you a bit of a call on the local repeater today when I was down in Narre Warren. There was no response from you, so I guess you were busy doing other things. I might have a quick word to you after the callback session if you like, and just a general catch up if you're free to do that, but not too long. Otherwise, not a whole lot to report from this way. Signals on 80 metres appear to be down. The band noise appears to be up a little bit. Your signal, Clint, around about 10:15, peaking 20 over 9, but certainly not as strong as what we had heard you before, that's for sure on these nets. So maybe band conditions just not with us as well tonight. And other stations that have called in too, signal seems to be down a little bit. All right, back to you there, Clint. Thanks very much for the broadcast. As always, VK3EKH, VK3GL and Daniel.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. VK3GL, VK3EKH returning. Very good. Yep, not a problem. Thanks for calling in. And yes, you're also weak here tonight too. Only peaking around 10 over 9. So as opposed to normally what I see, which is probably about 25 to 30 over. So the propagation's a bit odd on 80 metres tonight. I didn't check. Actually, I didn't run the solar report. Well, there's enough of the solar bit there, but usually I would have gone into the space weather. I did have it ready to go, so it'd be interesting to see how the aurora ring over Antarctica is looking at the moment, out of interest. Anyway, I might check that later. Thanks, Graham, and yeah, I'll be around for a little while after, not too long, as you say. Andrew, VK3KIS, VK3EKH. Thanks, Andrew. VK3KIS, VK3EKH. Your signal's just a little bit weak to me, but that's partly because my changeover relay in the linear amplifiers decided to not change back to receive. It gets sticky after a while. Got to fix that. But yeah, I definitely agree with the what research and feedback is coming from the various probes that are analysing our sun on a daily basis. We're slowly learning, bit by bit, we are learning the complete picture of how our sun works. But there's still so many questions about why it does what it does. So it's very interesting, and I can't wait until we get to some imagery that really takes us down to the surface. I'm looking forward to seeing some of those amazing fire bursts and streamers in some amazing detail. But we're getting there, that's for sure. Anyway, another story. Thanks, Andrew. Good on you, mate. Thanks for calling in. Next on the list is Frank, VK3JR, VK3EKH. Thanks, Frank. VK3, excuse me, VK3JR, VK3EKH returning. Very good. Yes, sorry about the solar report. Very quickly, it doesn't take too long to do. Just bear with us, guys. What I would have read out, if I had have read it out, which I will read it out right now, the solar wind is currently at 322.1 kilometres a second. It's a hurricane at a density of 4.65 protons per cubic centimetre. The sun disk has 1, 2, 3, 4 has four sunspots on the disk of the sun as we speak, designated AR 3026, 3027, 3023, and 3024 in the lower right-hand quadrant of the disk of the sun. So the sunspot number is currently 59, and the radio sun, measured at a wavelength of 10.7 centimeters, is 101 solar flux units. 101 solar flux units is the radio sun at this point in time. There is they say here, a coronal mass ejection near miss possible on June 5. A minor coronal mass ejection CME that left the sun on June 1 will pass close to Earth on June 5, according to NOAA analysts. It might come close to enough for a glancing blow. High altitude sky watchers should be alert for auroras with the CME arrives this weekend, which is also what Tamitha was reporting on as well. So there it is. It's in a nutshell. And as far as potential Earth asteroids are concerned, as of June 3rd, 2022, there is 2,282 potentially hazardous asteroids. There it is. Solar report, very quick, to the point, and a quick look at Antarctica. There's a minor auroral ring activity over Antarctica, sort of pushing its way towards Australia, but nothing significant to talk about. Probably by Saturday or Sunday night, there'll be more activity there, so we'll keep an eye on that. That's spaceweather.com. So there it is, Frank. Quick report for you there. All right, now next on the list will be Kim, VK5 FUSC. Not very strong, Kim, but we'll give it a go. VK5 FUSC, VK3 EKH. Thanks, Kim. VK5 FUSE, VK3 EKH. Not a problem, dear sir. I just quickly turned the linear off, hopefully to reset the changeover relay. It did work. The noise picked up all of a sudden, but as soon as I turned it back on again, it stayed locked. I don't know. There's something going on with that. I'll have to definitely pull it apart to take a look. I don't think it's sticky contacts. I've got a feeling it's something else playing up. But thanks, Kim. Not a problem, dear sir. Thanks for the on the comments too on the chat window too. All right, Tony did quickly call in VK3 VAT, but I think he's probably hitting the sack. So thanks, Tony, very quickly. But I'll skip to Martin, VK7 JAH, VK3 EKH. It worked. Yeah, okay, Martin, VK7JH, VK3 EKH. Just a little bit tricky to hear you there, but you're always not. There's been some times your signal's been good, but mostly it's always a bit tricky to hear you too. So I just don't know why that is. I mean, hell, you're only 300 kilometres away, so I don't know. Anyway, thanks, Martin. Thanks for reporting in. I'll just take one more listen before we conclude. VK3 EKH. VK3 Alpha Uniform, was it?
Lima Charlie Mike.
Oh, right. Sorry, I don't know why I got that wrong. VK3 Lima Charlie Mike. I should know that call sign. VK3 EKH.
Why should you know that call sign?
It's not Calvin, is it?
No, Daniel. I'm only up the road in Endeavour Hills here, so yeah, you're blowing up my radio. But I've always had a bit of a listen, and yeah, I thought I'll just say g'day. Haven't actually listened over the last couple of months. I've sort of been in and out of hospital a bit, but anyways, nice signal here as you would. Only a few suburbs away. So keep up the good work, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Sorry about that. I got mixed up with another chap that had a similar call sign once. That's why it confused me. Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Thanks for calling in. Much appreciated. It's always nice to get new stations calling in on the callback. So I really do appreciate that, Daniel. Yeah, we usually kick off at 10 o'clock every Friday night. We start at 10. If I'm prepared enough to kick off at 10, I was a bit late today. And we go for about an hour. So all on behalf of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, for what it's worth. Okay, thanks, Daniel. You're about 15 over 9, 5 over 9 plus 10 to 15 in that vicinity. So not doing too bad at all. All right. If there's no other stations, we shall shut down for the evening. Just one more quick listen. VK3 EKH. Yes. G'day, Peter. VK6 YSF, VK3 EKH. Have a say. Not very strong. I'll give you a readability 4 to 5. Readability 4 to 5 and about strength 9. Hang on. Yeah, my noise level is about S8. My noise level here is about S8. So you just a couple of S points above that, Peter. Go ahead. Yeah, thanks, Peter. VK6YSF, VK3 EKH returning. Yeah, signal's a little bit of QSB, just a little bit of QSB on your signal, and but it is in the noise here. So, but we copied pretty much most of that, and I think if I was to do a transmission later in the evening, like maybe 11 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock, it would probably the propagation out to the west would be just that little bit better. I would figure. But here it is at 11:35, and I guess the propagation out to Perth would be just about good right now, or better, let's say. But I think the propagation is a little bit funny tonight compared to the last few Fridays. I mean, when you called in the other week, you initially you were weak, but when I finally did call you in, you came up really strong, a good 10. And I think, if I remember correctly, peaking almost 20 over. Yeah, funny how the propagation on 80 metres works, isn't it? Really interesting indeed. Thanks, Peter. All right, if there's no other stations, I'll just take one more listen. VK3 November Lima Yankee. Have a say. VK3 NLY. VK3 EKH. Name is Clint. VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, VK3 EKH, and the name is Clint. Charlie Lima, India, November Tango. Clint is the name. Go ahead. VK3NLY, VK3EKH. Can I just grab your name again? I made such a mess of writing your name down that I can't even read my own writing. What was it again? Sorry about that. Go ahead. Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry, Laurie. Okay, not a problem. VK3NLY, VK3EKH. Yeah, you're hovering about 10 to 20 over 9 here into Narre Warren South. And nice to meet you there, Laurie, for the first time. And like I was just saying to Daniel, the broadcast runs every Friday, unless I decide not to. But I usually kick off at 10 o'clock, and the broadcast is on behalf of the Astronomical Society of Victoria. Actually, if you type in VK3EKH in the QRZ.com website, all will be revealed about the station and various pictures of the studio here, the studios, and and a picture of myself as well, for what it's worth. But thanks, Laurie, for calling in. Much appreciated. Good to hear. You've let's see, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're the 12th station to call in tonight, so it's a good callback, actually. I'm quite pleased with that. Thanks, Laurie. Okay, now, if there's no other stations, we shall conclude tonight and close the station down. This is VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, including transmissions on tonight on the 80 metres, and we'll be back next Friday at 10 o'clock to do it all again with the latest news reports on astronomy and anything else that tickles my fancy. So cheers everybody, to everybody viewing on the YouTube channel. That's the cameras this side. Thanks for watching on YouTube, and much appreciated. And everybody there on the Discord chat window, Kim, Joe, g'day Joe, VK3BKI is just tuned in, I can see. Martin and Nebs and Richard, and I think that's about all I can see there. Yeah, this mouse is not working either. I've got to fix that mouse up as well. Thanks everybody for the email as well. Any reports, please send to vk3ekh@gmail.com, and or any potential articles that might be worthwhile, that you find that might be of interest to read out, send us a link and we'll check it out. This is VK3EKH with VK3CSJ on the microphone, concluding transmissions for tonight on 3541. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. Graham, you want to have a quick word? VK3GL, VK3CSJ?
VK3CSJ, VK3GL. Yes, Clint. There we go. I've been, I've sort of caught up with a little bit of what's been happening in your world this week with your car and that, but maybe you can fill us in a little bit with that. Probably trials and tribulations, no doubt. Yeah, see what the latest is since last week when we last spoke. I have put out a couple of calls during the week too on the repeater, but you haven't been around, so maybe you had other things to do. I was down your way today. I popped in to see Paul around the corner from your place, and then I had a doctor's appointment at the Narre Warren Medical Centre, so I popped in there. I was actually down there for a lot longer than what I expected to be, because I decided to have a flu jab while I was in there. So I got that sorted. But my blood pressure was through the roof when I was in there. Always the case when I go to the doctors, my blood pressure is up through the roof. So there we go. Anyway, tell us what's happening with you, and I don't know whether you've been to work or you can't drive the car or what's been happening. VK3CSJ, VK3GL.
VK3GL, VK3CSJ. Yeah, no worries, great. You You see my posts on Facebook, don't you?
Well, I've seen some of it. I've seen what I think Subaru or someone has quoted you for doing some work on the car, and the motor's got to come out, and that sort of thing. But I don't know how that all come about. I think that last weekend, I think you said that you were going to do some work on the car, and then this week I see some postings to say that you've got significant issues. So I sort of don't know how that all unfolded over.
Yeah, no worries. VK3GL, VK3CSJ. In the beginning, no. As you know, I've only had the Subaru for about 4 years. I'm pretty sure it's been about 4 years. 3, at least 4 years. And I only paid $4,000 for it. So, it's a budget car as such. But pretty much from the beginning, I've always had temperature related issues. And it's always been a bit of a trick trying to get on top of the temperature issues. In the first couple of cases, it was just simply a loose worm clip around the radiator hose in two separate cases and 2 separate times, and both affecting my trip home from Heathcote at late at night. Like I usually excuse me, if I'm heading up to Heathcote, I'm normally heading back around midnight, and in both situations with loose worm clips, the coolant was pissing out of the radiator hose, the loop where it wasn't tied down. Every 15 minutes I had to pull over somewhere and top up the radiator because I didn't have a torch, because I couldn't see that there was a loose worm clip. It was really, really frustrating that I was having a temperature issue. Every 15 minutes I had to pull over and to top up the radiator. And it wasn't until much later that we found that it was a loose worm clip, both around the main inlet part and the overflow was causing issues. So that was all tightened up, and it was okay for a little while longer. Before I started to get temperature rising again. The next time, I was heading up to Parkes Radio Telescope for an open day, and I got halfway along Hume Freeway, and up again went the temperature, and I just knew that there was going to be an issue, and sure enough, the temperature went almost full scale, and that was the water pump that had failed. So a very quick call to a motor mechanic friend of mine. He says, turn your heater flat out, wind your windows down, and come home. And believe it or not, that worked. With the heater turned flat out, so the heater core in the car was taking taking part of the load, so to speak. The temperature didn't rise to any dangerous levels on the trip home, and it was just a water pump. So, and the other time was a thermostat too. I replaced the thermostat, and that seemed to fix it too, briefly. Anyway, in the last week or so, the temperature's been going sky high again, and I arrived at work Tuesday 2 weeks ago, or was it a week ago? Let's say 2 weeks ago, and 15 minutes from a cold start. Arriving in the car park, it only took 15 minutes of driving along Pound Road and South Kippy Highway that the temperature gauge was sky high, flat out. And so I spoke to my mechanic friend at work, and he had a look at it during his lunch hour, and he was scratching his head as to what could be going on, but he ended up taking the thermostat out and then topping up with water, and the trip home was good. The temperature didn't rise at all. It didn't go to dangerous levels. So for all that a week ago, I drove without a thermostat fitted to the engine, and for some reason the temperature remained just below where it would normally sit if things were okay. But it didn't get hot. So come Monday this week, I went to Subaru and I purchased a dedicated Subaru thermostat and installed that on Monday. And I went for a quick drive and I noticed that the temperature was varying around a little bit, and I thought, well, this is. I felt sure that it hadn't fixed the problem. So I drove it to work on Tuesday morning, and sure enough, as I pulled into the car park at work on Tuesday morning, the temperature was flat out, full on, and I knew that new thermostat wasn't the solution. So Tuesday I rang up Subaru and I spoke to them. I said, can I book the car in to be looked at, please? The nearest time I had was Thursday at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I left work on Tuesday at about 2:30 to beat the peak hour traffic, because I knew that it took half an hour to drive home and I would be having serious issues. So I left at 2:30 and I got home in 15 minutes with the temperature just beginning to be a bit of a problem. So at that point I didn't go driving anywhere. I left the car alone, and then I took it to Subaru on Thursday morning, and about 1 o'clock in the afternoon I had a phone call from Subaru with the bad news, and they said that the heater core is blocked. That'll need to be replaced. That'll be up to $2,000 for that operation. Then the head gaskets will need to be replaced and the engine itself machined. So that was going to cost in the vicinity of $4,000 to $4,500 to get the head gaskets replaced and the head machined. And in that respect, the engine would have to be removed and shipped to another location somewhere to get that done. And I said, if I gave you the green light to get all this done, how long would it take? And he says, 2 to 3 weeks. So I just thought, well, I need the car. I can't afford not to have my car. So I ummed and ahed, and I said to him, to be honest, I thought that I'd be sort of looking at about maybe $2,500 for this to get fixed up. I had no idea that it would possibly cost over $4,000. So he spoke to his supervisor, and there was not much that could be done in my favour. The only other option would have been to have paid off the repairs through a company that would take the cost of it, and I would have to pay it off over time, which was a possibility. But I just started to realise that this car only cost me $4,000, and I didn't really want to sink any more money into to getting this car fixed. I think I bit the bullet at that time, and I realised that it was probably time to look for a new vehicle. But money is the situation in this case. So I then came back later in the day and picked up the car, and I actually said to him that the observation that I make is that if the thermostat is fitted, the car overheats. If I take the thermostat out, it doesn't overheat. Why is this? And he was completely non-committal on the reason for that. The Subaru guy, he just sort of shrugged his shoulders and he said, "Don't know." So I know what the thermostat's doing. I understand its job, but I'm still not. I know with the thermostat removed, it means that there's more volume of water passing through the engine block and through the system. And from the moment that I start the car, the water pump works, and that there's a greater volume of water being passed through the system, and I can see that. I can see that working, and hence the temperature is kept low. But once the thermostat fully opens up, it's more or less the same process. The water flows, but for some reason, when the thermostat's fitted, the engine overheats like tobuggery. So today I took the thermostat back out, refitted the system, put more coolant back in the radiator, and run the engine for a little while, and temperature remained low. So I can drive the car on short trips. There's no country drives involved here. It'll get me to work and back, and up to the shopping centre and back. But I've definitely decided. Well, there's another story here, but I've definitely decided to look for a newer vehicle, and because I posted on Facebook, everybody has come up with I've got a car for sale, and has come up with a variety of suggestions. So I've got a few ideas, and there's a few things to follow up on. But the other part of the story is Kefford has seen me tonight. This is my nephew-in-law who lives on the property here with us. Kefford saw me tonight, and he says, "What's this problem I'm hearing about your Subaru?" And I said, "Oh, it's stuffed, mate. The head gaskets are stuffed. The heater core is stuffed. There's something crucially wrong, and I'm thinking about getting a new car." Anyway, because Kefford is mechanically minded, unlike me, and has sources, he says that he's got a friend who has a garage who works on cars, and he says that I'll have a word with his mate and see what he says about if it's possible to do an engine swap out. And we go to a car yard and look for a heater core from a wrecked Subaru or something of that nature, and just rip the heater core out of a scrap yard, and then very carefully remove the heater core in my car. And of course that's a full-on operation because it requires the whole the dashboard to be removed to gain access to this bloody heater core. So I'll wait until I hear back from Kefford about the suggested price that this will probably take. It'll be sure to be much cheaper than what Subaru is charging. No doubt it'll be much cheaper process. We might be able to resurrect the Subaru as a result of this, and if I go down that road, then all right, we still hold on to the Subaru for heaven knows how long. But with a reconed engine fitted and an unblocked heater core, we should be able to get the Subaru behaving its normal temperature again at a cheaper cost, one way or another. But I'm still looking around for new vehicles. I'm thinking about a Kluger, the same sort of car that what Dennis has got, Toyota Kluger or something in a variety of that, and that's what we're thinking at this stage for a new vehicle. Anyway, so that's it in a nutshell, and I think you've got the idea. But I've described all that on Facebook, and the various comments from both Lee and from Paul and from a variety of other friends as well are all there. So even Lee's got a car that he's about to sell. So I think it's what was the Holden Cruise? He's got a Holden Cruise vehicle that he's about to sell. So but I don't want a small car. I want to stay with the Subaru design, the same concept, a wagon with a tail thingy at the back, and but a little bit bigger, a 6-cylinder. I want to move away from 4-cylinder. I want to get my V6 back, or a 6-cylinder back, something with a little bit more power. The Subaru's just got no guts, so I really do miss my V6 Holden Commodore. You know the story on that one. VK3GL, VK3CSJ.
VK3CAL, and there's Kelvin, VK3 CSJ with VK3CAL, VK3GL, and good evening to you there, Kelvin. Yeah, okay, Clint, all noted and all understood. Yeah, look, I hadn't followed all of the comments that have been made, but I had seen the quotation and stuff that you got from Subaru, and by the time you did the engine and then the heater core and all that sort of thing, I figured that you'd be up for over $6,000 in repairs. And Subaru are going to charge normal commercial rates. They're not going to do anyone any favours.
Yeah, I know.
These car places don't, and I think they've been more or less pretty much affected by COVID, so they're trying to make up for loss over that period of time in some respects, so they don't do too much bending these days. If you go to a dealer and you want a car service, the price is the price and that's it. So, you've only really got other garages and that are able to do it. But it sounds like the engine's probably
cooked.
Well, it's got some issues. If they've got to send it away, or they've recommended that the engine gets sent away and have gaskets fitted, have it machined and so on, then it is quite possible that through this overheating that you've had happening, where the thing's been off the scale, even for a very short period of time, there's a possibility you could have warped the heads on the thing, and of course then gaskets and all those sorts of things need to be replaced. So it's not an ideal outcome when you overheat an engine, as you know. I do remember that episode where you did say that you were heading away and you were quite disappointed about not being able to go up to the Parkes telescope that time because the car broke down. I remember that episode happening. Yeah, I don't know, Clint. You really you have had some issues with vehicles in terms of aged vehicles and lack of maintaining them, and some of the combination of all of that, the aging of them, and then perhaps lack of maintenance in some respects goes towards these sorts of issues happening. But you probably know that, and that's why you service them and do preventative maintenance on them to avoid those sorts of things. So I don't know. The other thing is the price of second-hand vehicles are right up there at the moment. You can't buy a Commodore that's done 100,000 k's or 120,000 k's. You can't buy a second-hand one of those for pretty much under 25 to 30 grand at the moment. The second-hand price is just holding right up there, which I don't mind. It means the value of mine's gone up more, but the value. What do you put a price on value? It's an interesting concept. The only time that anything's got any value is the time that you fork out to buy it. So if you're happy to pay X amount of dollars for something, then you fork out, you pay it, and that's it. But as I said, the price of second-hand vehicles. I mean, just as a case in point, my Commodore, I'd probably get 30 grand more than what I paid for it. And it's 6 years old already, that car. So I guess it's because of what it is, but even so, the last model VF Commodores, which are 2016, 2017 built six-cylinder type Commodores, they were selling, when they were selling out, they were selling for $32,000 to $34,000 for a basic Commodore. And these days you'll still pay a similar amount of dollars for one that's done 120,000 k's. So, for you're really at the bottom end. If you're not wanting to spend a lot of money on a car, you're really at the bottom end of the market, and you're also at the end where the vehicles are starting to get a bit tired. So there is going to be issues with maintaining them. There is going to be issues with things going crook on them. Like your Subaru, you could go and spend all this money on, and probably Kevin might tell you the same thing, but you could go and spend all this money on the Subaru, do the engine, do the core, and then you could have a transmission issue. And you might be up for a Rico transmission, might cost you, another two and a half grand. Or you might have, shock absorber issues or rubber bushes or something like that. So I don't know how much money you want to plough into it, and for that sort of money, whether or not you might be better off getting another reasonably good second-hand car. But if you're looking at something like a Kluger like Dennis has got, one of those is probably going to cost you $15,000 or more to buy as well. It's a real quandary, Clint. So I know we all know what you should probably do. You should you should just buy yourself a bloody I don't know what sort of. If you're looking for the SUV type, you're probably looking at 30 grand for something like a Kona, but they're four-cylinder too, or even those. Well, they have Hyundai Tucsons. They're not too bad, and you can get them at a V6, but you're probably paying, for a new one of them, you'd probably pay over 30 grand for it as well. So I don't know. It's a bit awkward. It's a bit awkward to determine whether you plough more money into the Subaru and stick with it or not. Anyway, it's all very interesting. Well, at my end here, I don't have any car issues, but I've still got my mum in hospital. She's in rehab down at Kingston at the moment, and as far as I know, she's likely to be coming home about after the long weekend. The 14th, I believe, is what they've sort of earmarked for her to come home. So that'll be good. I've got Dad coming up here tomorrow afternoon just to catch up. I went to the doctors today, and as I said, my blood pressure was up through the roof. But there was another reason that I went to the doctors. I've had, for the last 2 and a bit weeks, I've had a bit of an achy pain behind my left-hand shoulder blade. And then I've had, when it happens, it depends on my posture and my position. And then when I get this bit of an ache in the back of the shoulder, I then get tingly fingers on my left hand. And that tingling sensation, like pins and needles type sensation, goes up the back of my arm up to my elbow. And if you look online, Dr. Google says it's likely to be a pinched nerve. So anyway, I said to Alison about it, go to the doctors and get an opinion on it. And I did, and he reckons that I've got carpal tunnel because I use the keyboard for work and all that sort of thing. He says, no, I reckon you've got carpal tunnel. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not entirely sure about that, but I have to, at this stage, I have to sort of go along with you if you reckon that it's likely to be carpal tunnel. So he said, look, what I think you should do is we'll get you to get a carpal tunnel wrist brace, and we'll get you to wear that for a week or so, and then come back and see us and see if it's any different. And if it's improved, well, then that's fine. But if it's not, then we'll go down the path of getting a scan and that, so that you can check to see whether or not you've got possibly a pinched nerve or something like that needs to be sorted out. So I don't know how they sort all those things out, but anyway, and I was reading online that the pinched nerve is normally something to do with a nerve in your vertebrae. Like I've not really injured my back or anything like that, so I'm not entirely sure how that sort of thing may have occurred. Anyway, so that's why I went to the doctors. So I've now got a wrist brace on my left wrist, and so far it appears that I have had reduced tingling sensation in my hand since I put it on, late this afternoon. So that's the story there. Otherwise, on the work front, work's normal. We've got Andrew, and Andrew's coming home from the UK for a couple of weeks, so you might actually catch up with him on the radio. M0DYI. I think he's still got his PK3DYI call sign as well, so he might come up on air, so you might hear him around. He's over here for a couple of weeks, as I said, and that's about the third week of June or something like that. He's over here. So there we go. Alright, I think that's sort of pretty much it as far as the latest stuff is concerned at this end. I'll kick it up to Kelvin. And Kelvin, I want to have a chat to you on the phone, perhaps over the weekend if I can give you a call. Just want to give you an update on where I've been to try and get 6-inch steel tube. And I'm still drawing a blank with it, but I just want to fill you in on that. And we might have to make some alternate decisions about what we do with the sleeving of that steel pole. But I'm sort of getting to the point where I've nearly exhausted every angle that I can possibly take. Alright, up to you there, Kelvin. And then stick it around between VK3CAL, VK3GL and the group.
Thanks very much, Graham, and a very good evening, gentlemen. Hope you're all doing well. Yeah, I just heard your update as well, Graham. Yeah, I hope that it's okay, or gets better anyway. Yeah, I had tingling in my right side there the other night. I'm back on some painkillers again. Back's always playing up. But yeah, a couple of times right on my tongue. The right side was all tingly. Yeah, it was a bit, it was a little bit worrying, especially when you feel it going up to your tongue, or especially the right side of your body anyway. And I thought, oh no, but he did have me on Panadine Forte there, but I'll stop taking those, so I do feel a little bit better now. But yeah, it was sort of a little bit scary, and I thought, sort of led back to them, so I've sort of backed off on taking them as well, so. He's also given me osteo, I think it was. He wrote out a prescription for them. But it's a bit hard when you can't take both at the same time. He issued two lots, and he didn't say, actually the doctor didn't say anything about not taking them, don't take them together. It wasn't until I got to the pharmacist, and he made it up, and she said, look, you can't take these both together. I'm like, well, why didn't the doctor tell me that, you know? But anyway, I'll stop taking the Panadine Forte anyway. But yeah, I'm certainly feeling a little bit better anyway. Having got that tingling sensation right from my tongue down my right side. All that's gone now, so hopefully it was just a cause from Panadine Forte. But yeah, Clint, getting back to your little situation here, mate. Just a quick question. What year is that Pickle? What year is it made?
It's 2003 Forester. Yeah, it is. It's a part of a fairly large assembly right behind the radio in the dash. No, there's no water leaking that I can see inside the car. The part of the reason for the blockage, I think, last week we used a sealant, a Nulon radiator gasket sealant on the base on the hope that if there was a breach or a gasket that had a gap in it, whatever, that the sealant would hopefully block that gap and fix the problem. So it was a last minute resort thing to do, to put some gasket sealant into the radiator, and we did all we followed the instructions and all that, and then when it came time to go home at 3:30 in the afternoon, the journey home, nothing changed. I still had the engine still overheated, so that trying to block any gaps that there might have been didn't work through the sealant. But as a result of pouring crap into the radiator system, it has blocked the heater, because the heater was working. I had no problems in getting quite some hot air in the heater mode, but pretty much from the moment that we poured this gasket sealant stuff into the radiator, the heater seems to have basically failed. And that I noticed that because when we fitted the new thermostat on Monday and did a burping system where we did a burp on the system, because when you go to burp the system, you've got to turn the heater on flat out and all that sort of thing. But I was only feeling a mild warm air blowing. It wasn't as hot as it should have been. So they only confirmed that the heater core was blocked. It could be unblocked. I know that there is a flushing agent that can be used in trying to unblock the radiator. That might work. I don't know, but at this stage, the heater core appears to be blocked, and there's no evidence of any leakage that I can see, Calvin. Certainly not inside the car. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. Yep, no, that's fine. So when you when you took the thermostat out, everything seemed that the car didn't get hot or anything like that. Well, that would be normal because you probably know how sort of an engine works. That with the thermostat in, it'll build up pressure and temperature till it gets to that thermostat temperature. Then the thermostat will open. In the meantime, behind the scenes, your whole engine and everything is getting warmer, until it reaches that temperature as well, which allows the water gets warmer until it reaches that temperature of the thermostat. So in that process, there could even be a small crack in your head or your main engine block. Could be, not only the hairline fracture, but as you know, as things heat up, the metal expands and actually water does to it. It expands. That's why sometimes if you filled your radiator up, your water will heat up and it'll usually overflow because there's too much water in there. It'll spit it out. That's what a lot of them now put overflow bottles in them. You fill the overflow bottle up until it reaches the top. You usually use the water, suck it into what it needs, blah, blah, blah. That's why you never lost water when you took your thermostat out, because the engine never actually got up to running temperature. If there is I'm not saying there is, but if there was a crack in the head or the bore, or could be around the bore, could be around your water jackets, could be anywhere in your block, anywhere around there. As soon as it reaches a certain temperature, that will slightly expand, and because the pressure that's there, it'll push it out there.
As Rob Stitch would do. I don't know, Calvin. It's an interesting thing. There's no visible fluid on the exhaust. There's no suggestion that there's coolant mixing with the oil. There's no suggestion of any discoloration to the coolant. All that part of it seems to be okay. So I understand that the thermostat kicks open at some temperature, let's say 70 degrees C, or very close to boiling, 100 degrees. I don't know what the temperature is, but let's say it's 90 degrees that the thermostat opens up. Both thermostats that I've tested were working perfectly well, of course. So I guess the question that I have though is, you know, and you might have just said it, but I'm going to ask it again, I suppose. Why is it that with the thermostat fitted, you know, once it opens up, once the temperature's reached and the thermostat opens and there's water flow through the engine block and through the radiator, should the engine overheat? But if we take out the thermostat, so that there's no thermostat, so there's full open water flowing through the engine continuously, courtesy of the water pump, that the temperature doesn't rise. If anything, the temperature is just below where it would normally sit on the gauge, but it doesn't go flat out. It just stays at some lower level. It's weird, that one. I don't quite know why the thermostat should be such have such an influence. I know that with the thermostat removed, that the heater core wouldn't get as hot, but now the heater is blocked. It's not working anyway. So I guess my other question is, with the thermostat removed, given that there is a problem with the engine, that there is maybe a gasket damage somewhere or some other breach, as you mentioned, with the thermostat removed and with the temperature gauge telling me that the engine is operating at a good temperature, is there any other damage going on that the temperature gauge is not telling me? Because when I see the temperature gauge go flat out, I know straight away that the engine is overheating and that the coolant in the radiator is boiling, and that's what I observe. But with the thermostat removed and the temperature gauge operating at much better limits, that's not disguising. That's sort of like disguising that there is still an issue. There is still an underlying issue or problem with the car. But with the temperature gauge operating at a normal level because the thermostat's removed, that doesn't say that there is still continual damage going on somewhere. I don't know. It's like having the thermostat removed is it's not necessarily. I guess that because the temperature the engine is running cooler is a good thing, but that doesn't necessarily say that I can continue to operate that car for the next 12 months without a thermostat. There's got to be something else that will probably eventually give. So I can only operate the car at the moment with the thermostat removed on short trips. I don't think I could expect to see a country drive in the car, although I have tested it last Friday when the thermostat was removed. I did go onto the freeway. I travelled at speed at 100 kilometres an hour for probably about 30 minutes. So I took off up Monash, got onto Eastlink and travelled almost the full length of Eastlink, came back home, probably about 45 minutes at 100 kilometres an hour, and the temperature did not budge. That is to say, it was just below its normal setting. So that kind of confirmed that there was something going on with the thermostat. But I replaced the thermostat on this week on Monday, and with a new one, a dedicated Subaru thermostat, and it went straight back to overheating. So I removed the thermostat today, and so I can at least use the car on short distance stuff. But it's just a mystery to me why the thermostat should be such a difference to being extremely overheating to being able to operate quite normal. There's something funny about that. But I'm hoping that with the thermostat removed, that the engine's running cooler, and as a result, I should be able to drive the car safely until we can get things sorted out one way or another. VK3 CAL and the group VK3 CSJ.
VK3 Lima Charlie Mike.
Yeah, Nige, VK3 Lima Charlie Mike. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, Clint. It won't leak, and because you haven't got a thermostat in there, which is not allowing the engine to get up to maximum optimal or maximum
Yeah.
temperature.
Yeah.
The water's going through the system that fast that it's not building up heat, so therefore we won't have a problem. But in saying that, right, if you got in your car and you drove into the city, for instance, right, let's put it this way, and you started getting that caught in traffic, right, and you weren't actually moving, because my car used to do the same thing. If you weren't actually driving around, if you were stationary at a set of lights or for any sort of length of time or anything like that, I can guarantee you your temperature will go up, right? Because the radio is not, as you're driving, even though like you said, you're doing 100 kilometres an hour, yeah, as that water passes down your radiator, it is getting cooled. But there's no thermostat stopping that. Your thermostat, as you said, might be 180 degrees, might be 160 degrees, until your thermostat opens up and lets the hot water out to go down the radiator to be cooled. Then it goes through the cycle. That's where you get your heater from. Your heat comes through water, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you know that. But if you're, like I said, if you're caught in traffic and you sat there for any sort of length of time, I can guarantee you now your temperature will go up.
Over. Yeah. Well, look. Okay, I acknowledge that. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe because I am driving at a speed, just by virtue of the cool air and the fans operating. There's 2 electric fans on this radiator. Is keeping the system cool that way. Okay, maybe that's true, but I think when I headed back home on Friday last week, I did stop at some lights, and I did, because my eyes are always on the temperature gauge. It's more on the temperature than the car in front of me, but I noticed small variations, but it did not go into dangerous areas. The temperature gauge never went past halfway on if I was stopped at a set of lights. Maybe I wasn't stopped at the lights long enough. But I can go out there now and turn the engine on in just a parked spot, and the gauge never goes above its normal temperature. It stays lower than the temperature, but that's not low. That's not under low. That's just the car idling. So maybe that's a difference as well. I've got to go out in the car tomorrow. I've got to do shopping, so I might do a little bit of a test. I might just do a little bit of a loop around the neighbourhood here, and just see what it's like under stop start conditions, and see how we go. But yeah, it's still an interesting one. It's an interesting one. And as Graham is sort of saying, that the price of second-hand cars right now is still pretty expensive. So, I can get myself a second-hand car, a good one. I'm looking at around no more than 15k for another car. But if I can resurrect this Subaru, if I can replace the engine and the heater core for much cheaper than what Subaru would have done, and I know that that's the case, maybe I can get out of it. But then again, as Graham says, we can get the engine working properly with the temperature, but who's to say that a little bit further down the track that the transmission doesn't start to play up, or something else doesn't start to play up. It really is touch and go stuff. 2003 Forester, it's been around for a while. It's done 226,000 kilometres So it's up there, but it's still got it's still probably got a lot more in it anyway. I'll pop it across to I think it was VK3LCM. Daniel, VK3LCM, if you want something to say, VK3CSJ, go ahead, Daniel.
VK3WV as well, 3LCM. G'day, Calvin. No Americans in your signal tonight, so all working well there, mate. I was gonna jump in because I had an issue with I had a VM Commodore going back 14 years ago. Actually, probably a bit longer. I got it when I was on my learner, and I had an issue with its heating issue there. And just a long story short, there, the thermostat, because it's just a spring, you know, it stops the water from flowing. This is what Calvin said there. It stops the water from flowing. There's the water in the block starts to heat up. And then the spring starts to expand, which opens it, and then the water starts to flow. And then it's cooled down by the fans on the radiator. So I had an issue with it, but the only thing is with Calvin, I would start going to the city with this issue, because I didn't fix it till a bit after, because I had no idea. And I never had it overheat once, but I always had it, the temperature very, very low. Even stuck in traffic on the Monash going into the city day after day, I never had it overheat. But it never got up to operating temperature. So it was always creating a little bit more wear on the engine. The other thing as well is, I guess what you can look for temporarily, it may help, is, because I used to have issues with the performance thing, your temperature gauge probably shouldn't be looked at as something that's accurate. So I had a previous car that I recently just sold, and that was a bit of a performance car. And when I bought the car, years ago, a few years ago now, I just sold it. The temperature gauge was just highly. It always sat bang on in the middle, or just on a cold night, just a little bit under. And I took it to the dyno place there. I had a whole heap of work done to it, and went there to get a dyno tuned in Keysborough there. And the guy there, Trent, goes, "Hey, your thing's overheating." And I go, "Is it really?" And he goes, "Yeah." And so I go, "It's, I'm looking in the car. I'm like, it's sitting at halfway." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "It's sitting at 98 degrees. It's getting hot," he said. And he goes, "What's happened is your thermo fans are on a switch and, blah, blah, blah." I said, "Oh, wow, I had no idea. I've always seen it sit halfway." This thing here would sit at halfway until it was too late, and then it would go to hot. Then it would go and start flashing. So it was quite inaccurate until it actually overheated. But here's a little bit of a Band-Aid fix, and this is something you might look at. It might be good in the short term or whatever, but it's a little bit of a Band-Aid fix is, I guess, one way to put it. And that is, if you can look at a thermostat that opens up at a lower temperature, that way it starts to get the water flowing a bit earlier, and then it will maintain a lower temperature instead of overheating. I can't tell you any figures on that. It's something you can look at, and that's even if you can get it for the Forester. So it is a bit of a Band-Aid fix. It doesn't fix the actual what's causing it to overheat, but it might be good enough to get you driving, properly again, until the issue's rectified. If it's even found, the problem is if it isn't the heater core, you're doing all that work for nothing, and then it's still got the issue. I've been there, done that with cars and over them before, fixing them, trying to change part. This is what it is. Change it. No, it's not. Spend the weekend changing it. No, it's not. That wasn't it. So yeah, I know it can be a real pain, but maybe have a look at a thermostat that operates at a lower temperature, so it's not allowing it to overheat anyway. That's a suggestion there, is a little bit of a Band-Aid fix. So yeah, I'll pass it back to you there. I just forgot your call sign. Sorry about that. Clint, I think it's VK. Actually, I've got it up here. Sorry, what am I talking about? VK3
I've lost it. Sorry, Clint, back to you, mate.
Oh, you're good. VK3LCM acknowledging Dennis, VK3WV who's called him, VK3CSJ. Yeah, no worries, Daniel. Well, actually, I can see where you're coming from, and there is some merit in that. Although I don't know whether there's a thermostat that would, as you say, I don't know whether there's a thermostat that has a lower opening temperature for that would fit into the appropriate diameter where it sits, because it sits right on the manifold there of the engine, upside down, facing the ground. It's a bastard of a thing to get to, unlike Holden's. But it's a interesting point. Look, I had a VS Commodore, a VS six-cylinder Commodore for 10 years, and I noticed how the temperature used to vary all over the place. As soon as I stopped at a set of lights, the temperature would start to go up to about 75% of the scale. As soon as I took off, it would go back down to just below halfway. And it did that for the whole life that I had the car. I'd ask mechanics about that, and they would simply say that is typical of a VS Holden. There is nothing wrong. That variation in the temperature gauge is just a normal thing that you will see. So there is nothing crucially wrong with it. But it always disturbed me to, certainly on a hot day, and to be sitting at a set of lights and see this temperature gauge going up. I never thought that was a good thing. But anyway, that's another story. All right. I'll just put it across to Dennis, VK3WV, VK3CSJ.
Yes, thanks, Clint. VK3CSJ, VK3WV. And good evening to the rest of the gentlemen on the frequency tonight. Haven't heard a few of you for a while, but nice to say hello again. Clint, some consideration of your problem. Given that you haven't got any water showing up in your oil or in your exhaust or whatever, there's a reasonably good chance that your head is not warped. There's also a reasonably good chance that your head gasket is doing its job. So very, very fortunately, I would say you don't really need to have the head shaved, neither do you need to have a new head gasket fitted. You certainly would if you wanted to bring it back to perfection. But given that it's not actually giving you problems, although people Subaru would want to do it that way, probably I'd not look at that at this stage. So we're saying, why does the thing get cooler when your thermostat doesn't work? Some consideration of that. I think your heater comes on because it's supposed to heat when the engine gets hot. When the engine gets hot is when the thermostat will open. So when you don't have your thermostat operating, you're probably not putting much in the way of water through your heating core. What I would do is bypass the heater core so that you've only got the car engine running on its own cooling system minus the heater core. And you should get cold in the winter, but the car should run. The second thing that I would do is, I don't know whether they are thermatic fans or thermostatically controlled fans, but I would put your fan on permanently. That is, start the car, the fans start, and they stay started. Now the car will heat up in due course up to normal operating temperature, but you will be running cold for a time that means that the engine will probably wear a bit more over a longer period of time. But given that you then won't have a possible obstruction in your heater core, which is probably limiting your water, which is probably putting your temperature up, given that you don't have that as a problem anymore, and given that your cooling will now be when driving, forced air cooling through the radiator, and B, when you're stopped, the fans will continue to run instead of you having perhaps some possible problem there with the fans starting or not starting, as the case might be. I'd put them on permanent run and see what happens. I think there's a reasonable chance that between bypassing the core and making the fans run permanently, you'll be able to have the thing run fairly cool for a lot longer. What that involves for you, I don't know. I would think probably what you need to do is get the hose that comes out of your head. That might find its way via some other switch into your heater core. Put a hose around that, and that eliminates that as a source of problem. And the other thing, as I say, it might be that they're thermatic switches. Knowing Subaru, they probably do something like that. And they're supposed to turn on, of course, when the thing gets hot. But they might be faulty. And they're not running, or I think you said there's two of them. So obviously they think that the thing can get pretty hot if they need two fans to run. Anyway, just a thought. I don't know if you got in touch with Brent. I haven't had a word with him, so I don't know what the happenings are there. Anyway, nice to hear from you, Gray. It's nice to hear your voice on the radio here. Haven't heard it for a long time. And Kelvin, haven't heard you for even longer. And the other station, I don't think I've heard at all. So, good evening to you. Name is Dennis. Location's not that far from Clint. Back to you there, Clint. VK3CSJ, Group VK3WV.
Yeah, all right, Den. VK3WV, VK3CSJ. Graham hasn't had a say for a while. He might be wanting to get away. So I'll just pop it across to Mr. Lewis. VK3GL, VK3CSJ, have a say, Gray.
Okay, very good. VK3CSJ in the group, VK3GL. And pleasant good evening to Daniel once again there. And also to you there, Dennis. Yeah, it has been a little while since we last caught up. And I trust all is well with you and Jan and so on. I did caught up last week and had a bit of a chat to Clint after the net on Friday night, and put out a few calls during the week on the repeater, and no one around. I was actually down that way today. I popped in to see Paul, VK3 AMR, and I also had to pop in to had a doctor's appointment that I was going to this afternoon in Mary Warren. So I did get down that way today, but there was no one on the repeater. not at the time that I called anyway. That was sort of anywhere from, I don't know, I was probably down there about 2 o'clock through till about 3:30 or so. I tend to very much concur with what Dennis was just saying. Had I had an over earlier, I would have probably suggested really exactly the same thing about bypassing the heater core and trying to get the system so that it was just dependent on its own cooling system, and then a check to see whether or not your thermo fans were cutting in and out, and you should be able to do that by just sitting it idle in the driveway there at home, and when it does get it up to temperature, or when it does get warm, the thermo fans, you should hear them cut on for a period of time and then perhaps cut off again. That would indicate that they're working. But nevertheless, there's nothing perhaps quite like permanently getting them to hard key on, which is probably nothing different to bridging out a relay for the thermo fans. So that's certainly something worth considering. And again, I would concur with what Dennis said, that given that you've got no coolant getting into the oil or no contamination or anything there, and that there appears to be no leaks at all, then that's a pretty good indication that your engine is actually okay from being sealed. It seems to be okay. You might actually cause more problems than what it's worth by removing gaskets and stuff like that, so it's probably not a good idea. It's best to leave everything alone. And the other thing to consider is, I don't know when you had the water pump replaced, whether you had a new water pump put in or whether you had a Rico water pump fitted to it. Because if it happens to be, it could even be a problem with water flow, insufficient flow through the cooling system. And I know that everyone's talked about how the thermostat works and why you would be getting earlier temperature warnings because of the thermostat being in, or with it being removed, it is going to behave completely different. And as Kelvin said, that the coolant's going to circulate through the radiator and everything, and run a lot cooler for a lot longer, but eventually it would overheat. And of course, the other thing to consider is it's the middle of winter now, or getting on towards the middle of winter, so the thing is going to naturally run a lot cooler than what it would if it was on a hot day. So if you had say a 35-degree ambient temperature outside, then the thing's going to run a hell of a lot hotter, and you're more likely to have cooling and overheating problems if you don't try and get to the bottom of what it is. So look, you might be able to resurrect the thing without spending a lot of money on it at all. But it's just interesting that Subaru would remove the engine and do some work on it, but they weren't going to rebuild it. I had a look online a minute ago. A replacement engine for your car is upward of about $3,500 to $4,500. That's a reconditioned, complete replacement engine. That's without fitting it. And that's what I saw online anyway. Oh, yes, you're right. I do want to get away. It's 1:45, and I've got quite a fair bit of stuff on the go tomorrow, so I don't particularly want to be too late getting up in the morning. But if it wasn't for the fact that I had stuff on, I'd probably kick around for a little bit longer. Mind you, Alison's gone to bed probably over an hour ago now, and she's not particularly happy about leaving, or she's left the light on. She normally leaves the bedside lamp on for me, knowing that I'm coming to bed. She would have done that, but it's not fair on her that I leave her there with the bed running, and me not being there. Because if I steer you too much longer, she's likely to come looking for me to see if I'm alright. So there we go. I'll have to catch up with you guys again later over the weekend. Kelvin, I'll try and give you a ring or something tomorrow. We can have a bit of a chat too about that power sleeving that I've been trying to get organised, and see whether or not we take it to angle. So back over to you there, Clint, and I'll say 7-3 to everyone and make the departing noises. That's departing too, Clint. VK3CSJ, VK3GL, you good?
Yeah, no worries, Gray. VK3GL, VK3CSJ. I'm still still on TV, by the way, just in case nobody realises it. I'm still transmitting via the TV repeater and YouTube. So the whole conversation is going out over the World Wide Web as I speak, and I really should close the YouTube channel down, I suppose. I'm quite happy to just hold the repeater open for the rest of the night. That's no problem. Anyway, I was going to acknowledge your arm tingling nerve sensation too. So I don't know whether you've ever been to a chiropractor and had your back cracked. But if it's a pinched nerve, if it looks like that it is a pinched nerve that's causing the tingling sensation, and that's could be what it is, you'll probably be asked, I suppose, to go and get your back cracked and your neck broken, and that might just fix everything up for you. But and I can speak from experience. Although I didn't get my neck broken, but it was close to it. But if every now and then, it's a good idea to get your back sorted out, even though you might not be having any problems necessarily. I figure that going to a good chiropractor will sort things out one way or another. Anyway, that's another story, but hopefully you'll get that sorted out. I am concerned about the high blood pressure that you've got. I know that you're on medication, but it's like my temperature problem with the car. Your blood pressure swings around like my car temperature does. So it's a bit concerning, Mr. Lewis. A bit concerning. What's the other thing? All right, on the car. There's two electric fans. And they're quite large. Two large electric fans that sit on the engine side of the radiator, and they kick in once the temperature gets up. Pretty much around about the time the thermostat opens up. These fans kick in automatically, and they sit turning away for probably quite a few minutes until things cool down. I don't know if there's a way of turning those on fully. It's something to do with the electronics of the system, and I doubt very much whether I'll be able to force those fans to stay on. I don't think it's really necessary because they do work. There's two electric fans that kick on as the car heats up. And they do work. They come on and they go off. But I get what you're saying about bypassing the heater core. I can do that. I know where the two tubes go into the heater core from the engine side. So they're easy to get to. They're not hard to not to get to. They're easy to get to, those two pipes. And it sounds like a good idea. Actually, it's a working theory. And if I connect those pipes together, so if I remove them from the heater core, and just connect them together, so the water cycles through, I'll see what happens. If the temperature stays the same, then I'll fit the thermostat back. It's annoying me to have to get under the car to do this, and I waste coolant each time I do it. But I'll fit the thermostat back, and I'll see what difference that makes. At the end of the day, it might have been the heater core that was screwing things up. I don't know, but it's one point of elimination, a process of elimination. There's been various pressure tests done, and the twice that I know that a pressure test has been done doesn't reveal a problem with the head gaskets. Your pressure test reveals that it's good. So again, that would confirm with what you're saying, Dennis, that given that there is no problems with the leakage anywhere, it might suggest that the head gaskets are in fact okay. Interesting. $3,000 though for a recon engine. Oh, it's still too much. But I mean, yeah, I can understand that. Look, I'll probably find out tomorrow. Kev's going to ask his mate about that, and we'll find out tomorrow what a recon engine, a complete engine swap out would be. Be interesting to hear what Kefford says. So that's given me a ballpark figure, Graham. Thanks for that. All right. No, I haven't spoken to Brent yet, but I left him a text message. As soon as you gave me the phone number, I installed it in the mobile phone, and the first thing I did was just send him a message. I just sent him a message saying that let me know when you're free for a phone call, but he hasn't replied to that. So I'd rather get a text message to say, yep, no worries, Clint, you can phone us anytime, or phone us after 6 o'clock, or something like that. I just didn't feel like phoning him out of the blue. So, but yeah, I'm still looking forward to seeing what Brent says. All right, look, we've got a couple of other stations here. We'll just quickly put it across back to Kelvin, VK3. What's your call sign again, Kelvin? CAL, that's it, Cal. VK3CAL and the group VK3CSJ.
Just jump in here, Kelvin, quickly.
Go on, mate, go ahead, please. Be my guest.
Okay, thank you. Look, I've got to go. That's why I've very rudely jumped in. Thanks there, Kelvin, I appreciate that. Yeah, look, Clint, I was at Brent's today, actually, and he was up on the roof clambering around doing some repairs. So when you rang him, you might not have had his phone in his pocket. That's the answer to that one. Your fans are not difficult to bypass. Get your multimeter out and look at the 12 volts across them, and you'll see when it switches. It either switches 12 volts to the fan, or it switches 0 volts, whichever it is. Get yourself a lead and run it from that point to whatever the 12 volt supply or the earth supply. You see it turning on and off now, but you don't know that it's turning on and off after your car's been running for half an hour or 2 hours or whatever. I'd be inclined to put them on a permanent basis for the moment. And once you've sort of determined that the car will run all by itself with its normal cooling system, then you can perhaps take a step back and let them switch on and off by themselves and see what happens. So given that Subaru says the heater core is crook, that's obviously the first thing to do. And also put the fans on permanently when you turn the car on, of course. And I would say you'd probably come pretty close to having the thing go. Not perfectly, but it'll go. Gotta go. Mrs. as you know, is crook, and I'm keeping her sort of awake at the moment, so that's why I sort of jumped in. And I saw all of your session tonight, by the way. It was quite good. So I'll leave you all with it. Thank you for letting me in, and I'll catch up with you again, Clint, in due course. I've just turned the TV off as well. I've noticed you're leaning back there in total comfort. Catch you later. Okay, I'll put it down to you there, Kelvin. Thanks for letting me in, and catch you all up later on. The K3CAL and the K3WV will be clear.
No, thanks very much, mate, and very good evening to you. Well, night or morning, whichever you'd like to call it, and you as well, Daniel, if you're still there. Well, there you go, Clint. I think you've heard just about anything you want to hear, and I sort of tend to lean back towards what Graham said earlier tonight, that, how much are you prepared to spend on this car? Is it really worth it? It is getting a bit long in the tooth. I'd also look at the Ford Territory too. I know they're a little bit bigger car, but they do have the drop-down seats in the back as well, so you can put a fair bit of stuff in the back as well. But it just depends on how much money you're willing to spend on it. And keeping in mind too that every time you go and get something looked at by a mechanic or whoever it might be, it's going to cost you as a quote. And they soon add up as well. So I guess that's something you're going to weigh up. Are you prepared to spend the money on getting it fixed, or would you be better off buying showroom car or second hand, something like that, low kilometres, that's the decision you've got to make, Clint. But if it's going to cost you that much, mate, I'd be thinking, it's really not worth it, Was it 2001 or 2003? Something like that. We might take off as well, gentlemen. We might head off to the bedroom as well. So, anytime Graham, the goods are in tomorrow afternoon, mate, no worries. We'll talk about that then. No problem at all. Alright, we're going to take off, gentlemen, so you all have a good night, and we'll talk soon. So, we'll throw it back to you, Clint, VK3 CSJ, and the group from VK3 CAL. There you go. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, well, wrong button. Wrong button. Did you want? Are you there, Graham? Did you want to make any final comments if you're still in the shack? No, looks like Gray's had to go to the bedroom. Looks like everybody's got to go to the bedroom. All right, no worries, Calvin. Yeah, I acknowledge that, and that. Look, to be honest, that's why. I pretty much made up my mind that it's a new car is due, but that still might have been, honestly, getting the Subaru back into shape might have still been the case, because getting money to buy another car is coming out of my super. I don't have any savings account, any savings that I can rely on for things like this. So getting access to money from my super is the only way that I can afford to get a new second-hand car. So at this stage, that seems to have come through for me after talking to Australian Super. It looks like I can access some funds, so which is really good. So if I can resurrect the Subaru, I guess it's a 2003, so it's getting up there. But if I can still get a few more years out of it, then I'm sort of happy to keep it going, I suppose. But in another part of my mind, I'm already thinking to myself, I've already convinced myself that a newish car is probably the way to go. To be honest, so like a 2010, 2012 something would probably be a good thing. And there's a car yard on the other side of Melbourne that's got this Jeep, a Laredo, a Jeep, 2012 Jeep, just for under 15k. It's got a few miles on it though, but the photographs that they take of this Jeep, it looks great. I'm almost in love with this Jeep, but I've had so many bad comments, people saying, "Oh, don't worry about a Jeep, they're horrible." So I'm now convinced that a Jeep is probably not the way to go, given the parts are hard, they're expensive, running costs are just awkward and expensive. So and mechanically the Jeep is really not designed very well, it seems. So it was a nice looking car, both inside and out, but and a good price. But the odometer was up around 248,000 k. So it's up there for a 11-year-old car. But anyway, no, I won't worry about the Jeep. I think I'll stick to looking at Toyota or a Holden variety or something like that. We'll see. Anyway, thanks Graham, thanks Dennis, thanks Colvin, and if you're still there, Daniel, thanks very much for your input too. And we'll just have to work it out what we do in the next few days. I've got 1 week to make a decision, I think, to stick with the Subaru or go with a newer car. So there it is. I think that's it. So I'll put it back to anybody there that might still be listening. This is VK3 CSJ.
guess. I reckon it's not like at the moment, as one of the other stations was saying, they're not too sure whether or not it needs to be, the engine needs to be reconditioned and all of that. So sort of those guys there, the Subaru jumped in the gun. It's probably worth looking at getting a second opinion, because as one of the other stations said there, it really doesn't sound like there's any issues with it. Actually, I'm on the wrong antenna here. I'm on the inverted L. Let me get back onto the loop. Hang on. There we go. That should be a little bit better. This is a 160 metre loop I'm talking on at the moment, and definitely bigger signals on the inverted L. Calvin was quite low down, but on the loop he was a 5.9. But I guess at the end of the day, it comes down to what has actually happened to the engine, if it's worth it. If you are just wanting a new car, then absolutely go for it. Or if it's like, what, I really like this Subaru, you said you like to keep it for a few more years. If the engine's fine, it really doesn't sound like there's any issues, because I've got a 2008 Subaru Liberty, and that thing did a head gasket a few years ago. It was actually my brother's car. I bought it off him. Now, that thing there, when it did a head gasket, it wasn't bad, but the amount of steam coming out the exhaust, you started up and it just white steam absolutely everywhere. You couldn't even see behind you. You looked in the rearview mirror and you could barely see it.
It's interesting.
So I'd be looking for something like that. So chances are the engine's fine. It's just something silly going on. It could be the heater core. It could be just something. There's always going to be something silly like that. But the problem is you don't want to go and start spending thousands upon thousands to find out it was a $20 part or something like that. And on top of that, I know for a fact that some of these mechanics are an absolute rip-off. They'll keep telling you, Ultra Tune up here in Devon Hills, they're closed down. They were a pack of rip-offs. My mate used to take his VE Commodore there. And they used to tell him absolutely, you got to do this, you go in for a service, you end up spending $1,200 because they decided to change everything on him. And he had no idea, and he keep paying it. And, I'm just going, these guys are just, they're just ripping you off. Then I think the biggest thing was he had a leak, and I said to him, you got to change that pipe down there. So I said, I can do it for you. It's a pain, I wish if I did, because there's a pain in the back arc and the backside, because we're going to have to drain your coolant, put it back in, bleed it, blah, blah, blah. But he was taking his car in for service in a week or two, so he goes, takes it, he goes, it was more than that. He goes, they changed the radiators, your radiator's cracked, they changed all the pipes, the water, that was spending about $1,800. And I said, oh my gosh, all I had to do was just change a pipe, but I was too lazy to help him. And I felt really bad for that. Always worth getting a second opinion, and then it's up to you whether if you do want a new car, go for it. But if you really like your car and you want to keep it those extra few years, it might be worth just sort of trying to diagnose what the problem actually is and then fixing it. So, yeah. I've got a question for you as well. I'm looking at one of these amplifiers I've seen on your QRZ page there, which is the Yaesu FL 1200 or 3000. I can't remember which one it is. It's a tube amp. I've got it open up here somewhere. Whatever it is, Yaesu FL 1200 or 2000 Zs, whichever they are. The one that you've got until you're running two of them. Just quickly, I don't want to keep up all night at 21 AM, but what are they like to run anyways, Clint?
Daniel, just as before I can carry on, I know that Kelvin did break in. Did you want to make another comment there, Kelvin?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Clint, look, you can talk to 5 people, you can talk to 500 people. You're going to get a different opinion from everybody. I would be inclined to go with what you like, what suits your purpose. But keep in mind too that I'm gathering you've always used petrol, but diesel are very good as well. They're not as bad as, and believe me, you might think, oh, goddamn diesel. I thought the same thing too. And I've had 2 diesels now. I've had the BT50 when they, before the first one they brought out, I had the the second one. I can't remember what it was. Now I've gone to the Isuzu with the Isuzu D-Max. Now Mazda have also changed their engines. They've gone to the Isuzu D-Max engine as well in the BT50, the new one. But keep in mind, they're not a power machine. But believe me, they'll pull the side of the house, mate. Believe me.
Yes, I wondered about the diesel too. I mean, just recently we've had diesel prices going up like you wouldn't believe at the petrol station, but I don't think that's any real issue. So yeah, I'll keep it in mind. Some of the cars I have been looking at are diesel, and when I see that it's diesel, I think no. I'm looking on the petrol side. But all right, yeah, no, yeah. All right, all points taken, Calvin. Not a problem at all. And I've just had another comment on my chat window saying don't go Jeep, stay away from Jeep. So I think he's right. No worries, Kim. Yeah. Oh dear, it's a pity because I really did like the look of this Jeep. It was a Cherokee, I think, or a Laredo. I don't know. It even had a window in the roof. I thought that was cool. I've never had that before. Yeah, I like the look of it. It was gold coloured too. Coloured kind of a goldy colour, which is very nice. Very nice. Anyway, all right. No worries, Calvin. Thank you very much, Lee. And no worries, Daniel. Understood. All your comments too. And if the weather is good tomorrow, if I don't get caught up doing anything else, like sitting in front of the laptop all day like I normally do, I'll rip off the connection to the heater core and I'll join the tubes together, bypass the heater core, and do an experiment. I don't know about the fans. I'll do the fans last if I need to, in hardwiring them on, because I know they're working. I know the fans are working, so I don't think it's really necessary for the fans to be running all the time. They do kick in as soon as temperature gets up, and they'll stay powered up until it cools back down again. So, they're working without a problem. But I am curious to find out whether it's at the end of the day, whether it has been the heater core that's been upsetting things. I don't know. The water pump is working. I can tell the water pump is working because with the cap off the radiator, I can see water flowing perfectly well. And if I accelerate the engine, coolant overflows out of the top of the radiator. So the water pump's doing its thing. And there's certainly no steam. That's an interesting observation. But I've certainly seen no evidence of anything coming out of the back of the exhaust pipe. Interesting, very interesting. Thanks, guys. I've taken all your comments on board. Not a problem at all. I'll let you go to bed, and I'll turn this repeater off. VK3, VK3 LCM for any final comments. VK3 CSJ.
The VK3 CSJ. Good night there, Calvin. Again, yes, I thought you left. Yeah, just a quick question. The ACFL 20.
Oh, yes.
These, whatever. I've been looking at them a bit and purchasing one. I've got the full call, but I'm only always running barefoot, and I wouldn't mind running the 400 watts, when I need it there. So, you saw on your QRZ page you're running two of them. Something you recommend, or it's probably better to look at something solid state. What do you recommend on it? Yeah, sorry, Daniel, I knew there was something I forgot there. I've got two of them, the FL2100Z. Partly the only reason why I got the Z is because it has 160 on it. It covers 160. But they work okay they're basically dedicated for SSB work. So they use two 572Bs in them, and essentially the amplifier is
will work okay. I have had no problems with them. Well, there is one amplifier that's got a bit of a funny thing happening with the Ford and grid current measurement. The switch is a bit dodgy, which I think it's just needs to be cleaned with some contact cleaner. That will probably fix that up. One of the linears has got tired valves. The 572Bs need to be replaced. But the other one that I'm using for 160 is very good, working very well. I can actually run AM. I can drive the linear with about 40 watts of AM and easily see over 100 watts coming out. Not by much, but I can control that with the RF control on the Pro 3 here. It's they're a nice linear amplifier. They work well, and I don't think there'd be any issue with getting one if you find one. Daniel, not a problem. Like I say, it'd be good. Make sure that when I say make sure, the person selling the FL2100Z might not be revealing whether the two valves are in good condition or not. They might say that yep, its output's good 400 watts without a problem. That's okay. You can test that. But if the two 572Bs are tired, then you'll find that the output will be correspondingly low. So you can still get 572Bs from America. The States still has them available. Bit on the expense side. You're probably looking around $500, maybe close to $600 for a pair of 572Bs if you wanted to get a new pair brought in from the States. So you'd want to hope that the 572Bs are in good condition if you end up finding a 2100Z somewhere. I think that's all I can really say about that. But I've had no problem. I think they're okay for what they are, for what they're designed to do. They're a good SSB operation type linear, and certainly the one that I've got here works well on AM for upping the power to a good 100 watts with about 40 watts drive. So it seems to work quite well. Okay, VK3 LCM, VK3 CSJ.
VK3 CSJ, VK3 LCM. Yeah, so we're looking at amplifiers. There have been quite a few of those FL2100s pop up recently. I think I've seen about 3 in the last couple of weeks or so. And only saw it a while ago, so sort of looking at that, and usually I've seen them go for 800. There was one there yesterday. I think they went for 645, and I think it had a couple of brand new valves.
Oh, okay. That's good.
But anyways, I've got to do a bit of research. I've got an FTDX 101 that I'm running at the moment, so I'm sure it works. I mean, it's all new for me to run an amplifier when I get one, so I've got to figure out how to make it all work together as well. So anyways, it's something I'll work out once I do a bit of research on different amplifiers. Anyways, Clint, good to talk to you, mate. Good luck with the car. I'm sure I'll catch up with you again soon and see how what you decided to do with it. Whether you found an issue or kept it or looking at another car. So what Clint said, it's what Calvin said there. Do whatever is best for you, whether to keep it or fix it, or if you just want to change in a new car. It's up to you. And whatever I guess is going to be the cheaper or easier option, depends. So good luck with it, and I'll say 73s and have a good night, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Back to you, VK3 CSJ, VK3 LCM, your final.
Thanks, Daniel. VK3 LCM, VK3 CSJ. Okay, mate, no problems at all. Thanks for the words. Good to catch up with you for the first time. And I think you said you're in Endeavour Hills. I've got a friend of mine over there in Endeavour Hills, Bob, VK3AZM. He lives in Edith's Court on the north side of Heatherton Road there. So he's right on top of the hill. Bob, VK3AZN, Alpha Zulu November. So, yeah. Anyway, never mind. Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, look, I look. On one hand, I would like to get a new car. It'd be nice to have a new car, something that's a bit bigger engine, and something I can fit into. At the moment, the Subaru is a small profile. I squeeze between the steering wheel and the seat. I always like to have the seat up as high as I can get it, so I can look over the front of the car. I hate not being able to see the front of the car, so I have the seat as high as I can get it, and the steering wheel is in its comfortable position. But I still, as I get in and out of the car, my leg rubs between the bottom of the steering wheel and the seat. It's just a little bit on the narrow side. So I always find the driver position to be a little bit on the too small side. So and of course the 4-cylinder just doesn't have the guts that I'm familiar with. When I had the Commodore, the V6 Commodore, the Subaru it doesn't, in the first two gear changes, it's flat until it switches to the third gear. Does it start to pick up speed? So I can't rely on the Subaru for a fast get up and go. I do miss my V6 Commodore, the VS. Anyway, that's another story. Thanks, Daniel. Catch you later, mate. And I'll be here again next Friday with the broadcast. So if there's any updates and any news, I'll certainly be mentioning it, I'm sure. VK3LCM, VK3CSJ is concluding on 3541. Oops, wrong one.
Have a good night, mate. Good luck with it all.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, everybody else that might be listening. This is VK3CSJ, Narry Warren, South Clare. Oh, there was a weak comment there, but I wasn't too sure who that was. Anyway, alright, I think it might have been Kim. I'm not sure. Anyway, alright, I'm going to conclude on the TV side of it too, and YouTube. So, for those YouTubers that are still watching the stream, thank you for watching. Listening to the conversation here, it's been going on at the other end of the shack, so all very good. It's what is it? It's 18 minutes past the hour, so I better conclude. So this is VK3CSJ concluding on YouTube, and we'll be back next Friday to do it all again, but maybe not as long. So thanks for watching on YouTube. We'll close the stream down now, and this will be available to watch as soon as I stop this again, if you want to watch it all again. We'll be back actually at 10:30 Sunday morning for the WIA broadcast, followed by the Old Timers Club news session, which will follow. So that's Sunday morning at 10:30 on ATV and YouTube. Good evening for now.